Can you see me? Do you perceive me? Do you have to be shown to know me? Can't you see your eyes shut in disbelief or mistrust? I know it's hard to believe, but it's worth the wait. A leap of faith is all it takes. Freedom is the price you pay for a life not lived, standing in your way. Who am I to say? 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 I'm just trying to pave my way. Just trying to pave my way. Trying to pave my way. I'm trying to pave a way to stay true. Stay true to you. Stay true to you. To you. To you.
So a little professional courtesy back and forth. So, Dr. Eastbrook, welcome to the committee, and I will turn it over to you. And just a little ground rules. During our work sessions, we try to keep it a bit more informal so people can ask questions because we consider this a learning opportunity for the committee here to be able to understand what's going on and what you're presenting. So there will be a bit more informal. We'll stop for questions as people have them going through.
That's fine. Okay. I'm open to any and all questions at any time. Let me start by saying that I'm happy to be here and share the information I have with the committee. I have a lot of data, probably more than you want to know, and a lot of it is in graphic form. And what I will do is I'll show you the factual data for some of the assertions that are in Senate Bill 5502. And to do that, I'm relying on some sayings of our astronauts, which you see on the screen. In God we trust, all others send data. So I'm bringing data, and I don't ask you to believe any opinions that I may have. You'll hear very few opinions from me. What you'll see is a lot of data, and I hope that the data is clear enough so you can make up your own minds, and you won't need to ask what my opinion is. Whoops, let's go back one. To begin with, I need to say who I am, primarily because there has been a lot of politics injected into science these days. And so I am simply a geologist with 50 years of expertise and research in global climate change all over the world. I'm a lifelong environmentalist. I am a scientist. I'm not political. I don't have any particular bias towards either party, so I have no political agenda. I'm not associated with or funded by any business group. I'm not a shill for big oil, big coal, big anybody. All of my research has been funded by governmental agencies. And I'm currently working actively with an international group of geologists, atmospheric physicists, meteorologists, astrophysicists, oceanographers, and field experts, and other scientists in various parts of the world. You know, that's where I'm coming from. I thought I might start by listing some things that you probably don't know about or haven't heard about because the news media isn't telling you. And I've listed a few of them here. There are a lot more, but some things that I will touch on later in the presentation. And that is that global warming ended in 1998. That may come as a surprise, but I'll show you the data for it. And it is indeed true, and that has been admitted by the chairman of the UN group that has been pushing CO2 as causing climate change. Even he admits there's been no global warming in 15 years. The Antarctic ice sheet is not melting. Contrary to headlines you'll see about every other day that the Antarctic ice sheet is melting at an accelerating rate. It not only is not melting at an accelerating rate, it's not melting at all. The main ice sheet, and I'll show you the data for this, is in fact growing, not melting. So we don't need to fear that the ice caps are going to suddenly melt and cause all kinds of problems for us, because they aren't. Sea level has been rising globally and also locally at a rate of about 7 inches per century, as we're thawing out from a little ice age which occurred about 500 years ago. And the projections of anywhere from 5 feet to 20-foot rise of sea level, as you'll see when I present the data, is beyond reality. Snowfall is not below normal. There have been headlines from time to time about, in the Cascades, certainly, that the snowfall in the Cascades is diminishing because of global warming. That's not true. For the past 5 years, have set snowfall records, both globally and in the Cascades. CO2 cannot possibly cause global warming. That will come as a shock to you, I'm sure. And the reason is that there's so little of it. It is a trace gas. It has increased in its atmospheric content by only 8/1000ths of 1%. If you double nothing, you still get nothing. And I'll comment more about this later. Severe storms are not more frequent than normal. When we get a big snowstorm in the east, they say, oh, it's because of global warming. When we hear about a hurricane on the East Coast, they say it's because of global warming. It isn't. And I will show you data that shows that actually the extreme events, severe storms, are actually declining. They're not becoming more frequent. And finally, you may be surprised to know that the oceans are not acid. Oops.
Mr. Chair?
1 second. Let's,
You want to go back?
I think Senator Anker has a question.
Oh.
I'll have several later. Most of them I'll wait until the end. Just on that last point, the oceans are not acid. Are you saying that ocean acidification does not exist, or are you saying the oceans entirely are not acid? I think all of us would agree with that. Nothing is an acid. So
the oceans are not pH, which is a measure of acidity, is measured on a scale, and 7 is neutral. The oceans have a pH of 8.2, which is alkaline, not acid. And I'll show you why they are not going to become less alkaline, much less more acid, with increasing temperature change, if that in fact were to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify my question, I'll be a little clearer here then. Do you believe that ocean acidification exists in the world's oceans today and here in the Northwest?
No. I'll show you the data. I'll talk about this in detail. If you'd like to wait till I get to those slides, it'll be clearer, I think.
Badly. Thank you.
It's very clear, and I'll show you the data. So what I did was I looked at specific issues that form the basis for Senate Bill 5802, and I listed 6 of them. And so what I did was I pulled out data that relate to all 6 of these premises that are inherent and form the basis for Senate Bill 5802. Regardless of the language of the bill, this is what the bill was based on as of this weekend. And you can read them, but emissions of greenhouse gases is the principal cause of climate change. A lot of data, I'll show you that. Sea level is rising at an increasing rate because of global warming. That's not true. I'll show you the data. Frequency of severe storms is increasing because of global warming. That's not true. Reduced winter storm packs and decreased summer stream flow is not true. Increasing acidification of the state's marine waters. That may or may not be true in terms of the state's marine waters. Certainly it's not true of the oceans globally. And finally, the production of more electricity from renewable energy while phasing out coal-powered electricity generation. I'll just show you some data that shows what this would cost, and without commenting on whether coal plants are good or not. I'm not particularly in favor of coal-powered generation, but there are some numbers you might be interested in. So let's take these one by one. The first one is that greenhouse gases from human activities.
Dr. Easterbrook, Senator Anker has another
Can you go back to
question.
the last slide? I didn't understand what your point number 6 was trying to get at. I heard you mention coal, that you're not necessarily in favor of coal-fired generation. What's your point there? What are you going to tell us
My
about?
point is to show you the relationship between coal-powered generation and other forms of electricity generation, how much of it is from each of these categories, and what the cost of each is, and what changing from one to another might involve. I have no opinion on that. I'm just going to show you some numbers.
And how that relates, sorry, Mr. Chair, and how that relates to climate? Or you're just going to show us the costs on the generation?
It relates to climate because the rationale for moving from one form of energy generation to another is climate. Is how much CO2 you put in the atmosphere. If that's not a realistic assertion, then it doesn't matter. But if it is, then there is a concern that it's related to climate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So let's look at greenhouse gases. But before I do that, let me say something about global warming. There's nothing new about global warming. It goes on all the time. It has been going on for thousands of years at much higher rates, much more intense for longer periods of time than we've experienced in the last period of global warming since CO2 began to be elevated. This graph shows temperature on the left-hand side and the date, year on the bottom. And what you will see is that there was a period of cooling from 1880 to 1915. Temperatures were going down. This is a global record. And then from 1915 to 1945, the climate warmed. And then it cooled again from 1945 to 1977. And it warmed again from 1977 to 1999. And since 1999, it has cooled slightly. Not a lot, but slightly. So what does that mean? Well, if we go back to the warming that occurred from 1915 to 1945, shown by this curve here, global warming occurred without any increased CO2 in the atmosphere. This was before the big surge of CO2 emissions after World War II in 1945. So if you want to put a mental line in 1945, that's the breaking point between increasing CO2 and insignificant changes in CO2 prior to that. So this warming took place prior to increased emissions that occurred after 1945 and cannot possibly be ascribed to CO2 as a cause. Cannot be. And then in 1945, global emissions began to escalate very rapidly. And for 30 years, as the escalation continued, and we put more and more CO2 in the atmosphere every year, we had 30 years of global cooling. So the question then is, if we've had escalating CO2, which is supposed to cause global warming, why did we have global cooling during the initial period when CO2 was escalating so rapidly? It doesn't make sense. And then finally, there was a period from 1978 to 1998 when global temperatures rose again, and CO2 was still rising. CO2 has been rising throughout this whole interval. So there's only one period when CO2 was rising at the same time the temperature was. And we can take that back even farther. If we go back 500 years, this graph shows essentially temperature on the left-hand side and the year AD on the bottom. Each one of these red peaks is a warm period. Each one of the blue peaks is a cool period. Climate is not constant. It's changing all the time, and it changes in cycles. Warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, with about a 30-year time span between each one. So we could count these warm periods, and we can count 20 periods of global warming and global cooling that have occurred in the past 500 years, none of which could possibly have been caused by CO2 because CO2 had not begun to rise until 1945. In other words, we have an instance here of 20 periods of global warming, similar to what we've experienced in the period from 1978 to 1998, that could not have been caused by CO2. They were caused by natural causes. That's important. 20 periods of global warming that can only be ascribed to natural causes in the last 500 years. If we go back even farther, if we go back 10,000 years, This is temperature on the left-hand side. Sorry, it's not labeled. And these are years before present on the bottom. The red curve you see here these are temperatures that are higher than the present temperatures. And so this is 10,000 years ago at the left-hand side. This is present on the right-hand side. Look how much of the last 10,000 years the temperatures have been higher than they are now. Almost all of the last 10,000 years, except for the period beginning about 1,300 years ago, almost all of that, the temperatures on Earth were actually warmer than they are right now. Warming is nothing new. As a matter of fact, it's the norm for the last 10,000 years. The blue periods here are from the Little Ice Age, which was a period of global cooling that occurred from about 900 AD and may still be going on for all we know. So what about all the claims in that temperatures are warmer now than they have ever been? These are patently not true. And those claims come from manipulation of data. Here is the real original data. The hottest year of record, number one for the number of, this is the number of temperature records that were broken. Number one is 1936. Everybody has acknowledged that 1936 was the warmest year of this century, until NOAA and NASA began to manipulate the old data and made it cooler. And then they elevated the recent temperature, made them warmer, and so they come up with a headline saying, oh, it's warmer now than it was then. This is the original data before they manipulated it. You'll see that if we take the top 10, number 2 was 1934, 3 was 1939, 4 was 1931, 5 was 1930, 6 was 1933, 7 was 1938, and guess what? They're all the 1930s. 1930s was the hottest decade of the century, not the present, not the last decade, but the hottest of the century. I'll show you. Over here, you look at all these 2000. These are all second tier, 10, 11 through 20. This is what the present temperature has been doing, and it's nowhere close to the other. And if you plot that data, this is what it looks like. This is a number of temperature records that were broken in any given year. These are years down here. So here we are right here, and now we're breaking somewhere around 2,000 records, temperature records for warmth. And you think, wow, 2,000, that's a lot. But look at what it was doing in 1936 and 1934, 10,000. We are setting record highs at a rate of about only a fourth of those that occurred in the 1930s. This is hard data. You can, question?
No, go ahead and finish the slide, then we'll have a question.
Pardon me?
Go ahead and finish the slide, then we'll have a question.
Oh, I'm essentially finished. The point here is that the 1930s were the warmest decade, and there were 10,000 temperature records set in 2 years, in 1936 and 1934, and we're setting now records somewhere in the world at a rate of about a fourth of that, about 2,000.
Senator Ranker has a question.
So let me rattle off a couple of peer-reviewed scientific facts that I have before me, and I would like your opinion on those. I understand that last November was the globe's 333rd month of above average global temperatures. To put that in perspective, that would mean that if you are 27 years old today, you have never experienced a month with a global temperature below the average.
Do you have a question, Senator Ranker?
I asked it in the beginning.
Thanks.
I want to know his opinion on this. And then the second one is that, again, peer-reviewed data here.
Senator Ranker, we'll come back to that one later. We're going to let Dr. Easterbrook. No, we're going to let Dr. Easterbrook finish his presentation.
I'm happy to answer your question, but I'll show you some data. Let me answer it for you.
Because what you just put out in your slide goes contrary to the data that I have before me. So I'm just curious if what you're basing your metadata on, where your samples are taken from, and then also what's your opinion of the data that I have before me, which seems contrary to what you're putting forward.
I don't doubt that it's contrary. And what I just said a moment ago was that I'm showing you the original data, and what you're looking at is the data that has been tampered with by NOAA and by NASA. And I could show you curves of what that data looked like in 1936, what it looked like in 1980, what it looked like in 1990 and 2000. And the temperatures, the high temperatures in the 1930s get cooler every year. They put out a new issue. And the temperatures that are in the 2000 plus get warmer because they have frankly tampered with the data. That's the difference between what you're looking at and what I'm looking at. Mine is the original data.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So the National Science Foundation, NASA, and NOAA have manipulated the data.
Yes, that's true. I can show you the data that they have manipulated. I'm not saying that they have done something which is scurrilous and evil. What I'm saying simply is something that everybody will agree on, and that is that they have what they call adjusted the data. And if you look at how they have adjusted it, the 1930s always get lower because of the adjustments they made from the original data, and the 2000 plus always get warmer. That's the case, and I can show you data that will indicate that if you like.
Thank you.
Great.
Here is a curve of what's called a heat wave index. These are for really hot times, and again, simply to point out what I was mentioning a moment ago, the heat wave index for 1936 is right here. And look at the period of 1930, 1940 relative to where we are now. This again confirms what I have just said, that the 1930s were warmer than they are right now. We had more heat records broken. We had higher temperatures. It was a hotter decade. And there's hard data for all of that. We hear about droughts. We had a drought last year in the summer in the Midwest, which was not a good thing, devastating. These things happen. This is what's called a drought index, and the down trending curves here, which are colored yellow, are times of drought when the rainfall is below normal, and green is wet. And so if you just look at from about roughly 1980 something up to about 2000, you'll see that actually there are more wet times than there are dry times. This is not an ongoing drought. And if you look also at the duration of the drought, you'll find they generally last 2 to 3 years, something like that. And then they move on. So the drought last summer, was bad. There's no doubt about it. It cost a lot of farmers a lot of money, but it wasn't in any way unusual. Again, more data that looks at the relationship between temperatures. This is the count of hot temperature records set, similar to the data I just showed you. 1930s were by far greater than recently in the past couple of decades. And look at the relationship to CO2. There was no correlation whatsoever to CO2. And in fact, this big hot spell in the 1930s occurred before CO2 began to rise. And so it cannot have been caused by CO2. And then we've had some cooling in between and then another warm period. There's nothing mysterious about global warming. It happens all the time. That's not the issue. The issue is what's causing that global warming. And the same thing is true if you take almost any place. Here are 100-degree days compared to CO2 for New York City. Again, there's no relationship between CO2 and the number of hot days in New York. So the conclusions are that 80% of all maximum temperature records were set prior to 1960, before accelerated human CO2 emissions began in 1945. Thus, the present conditions, the present warming, or the recent warming, has nothing to do with CO2. Present drought conditions in the Midwest are part of a normal weather pattern. This is weather, not climate. Climate is generally taken to be a period of about 15 years or so. Weather is day to day, year to year, whatever. So if you're looking at an annual number, that's weather. It's not climate. And so what we're looking at when you see a severe storm or a period or an unusually cold or warm winter or summer, what you're looking at is weather and is not related to global climate. Weather extremes happen all the time, regardless of what the climate is doing. And the present drought conditions are not as severe as those in the 1930s, the warmest decade of the century before CO2 level. So what happened to global warming? I mentioned earlier that global warming stopped in 1998. And my guess is you probably have never heard that, because the press will not print anything which is adversely related in any way to CO2 as a cause of a climate change. But here's the real data. The graph on the left-hand side is temperature on the left-hand axis and year. This is satellite data. This is the best data we have. It is untampered, unadjusted. It is taken from real readings from satellites, and it gives a good overall global average. This peak right here is 1998, And since then, it has gone down, came up a little bit, and as in recent years has been on a sharp downward bend. And I'll show you what the overall trend is for the decade in a moment. And that is confirmed by ground measurements. These are mostly ground measurements. The top two here are satellite measurements compared to ground measurements, which are these lower three colors right here. And you can see the shape of the curve is essentially the same. So the ground data and the satellite data essentially agree that we have indeed had global cooling for the last decade or two. Here's the trend. Trend means the rate at which it's getting warmer or cooler. So beginning about 1998, which is right here, this is the trend. Down is colder, up is warmer. Look at the downward trend between 1998, and this only goes to 2004, but it's continuing on down. These are winter temperatures for the U.S., and again, look at the same trend. Starting about 2001, the average winter temperature is going down at about -4 degrees during this period. That's the trend. It's getting colder at a rate of about 4 degrees. Another plot of that same sort of thing, again showing the green line here, cool is down, warm is up. So again, showing a cooling trend since about 2001. And all the while this is going on, we hear in the headlines that global warming is accelerating and it's getting hotter and hotter, and in fact it's getting cooler and cooler. Here are winter temperatures for the past decade, from 2001 to 2010-11. In the north central states, it's 8 degrees cooler per decade. The same in the north central area, and they range all the way from about 2 in the Pacific Northwest, -2 to -3 in the southeast. All of them, however, are colder. It's not getting warmer in the winter, it's getting colder in the winter. This is NOAA data. I'm sorry, this is NCDC, that's NASA data. Beg your pardon.
Hey, Dr. Eastberg, Senator Ranker has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 questions, if I may. The first one is, have you taken into account volcanism, solar radiance, and other factors such as that in your data? Have you removed those from the picture? Or
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Like volcanic events, solar radiance, and other issues like that. Have you taken those into consideration when accumulating your data?
Yes, but this data doesn't, this speaks only to the temperature change. It doesn't speak to the cause. And we can talk about the cause later, but the answer to your question is yes, I've considered those in great detail. I work with some solar physicists, some atmospheric physicists, some astronomers, and we all agree on what's happening with the solar. In terms of volcanic activity, I'm a geologist, and I can judge that for myself. And I can tell you that volcanic events are very short. They're like little punctuation marks here and there. They don't persist. They're not a factor. They give you a 1 year, 2 year spike, and then they're gone.
Okay, so in the follow-up, and this gets back to the data I have before me, which seems, again, contrary, but so you're talking about a trend, particularly over the last decade, maybe 15 years of cooling, yet what I have before me is that 2000 to 2012 was the warmest 12-year period in instrumental record. In other words, since we've been recording heat of the planet and what we're in, the last 12 years were the hottest on record. And that's peer-reviewed data that I have before me. And so my question to you is that because what I'm looking at has been manipulated by NASA and NOAA and the National Science Foundation, or what's the difference here? Because we obviously have conflicting information before us.
Right. I don't know what your data is or where it came from, so I can't answer that specifically why it's different. What I can tell you is that the data that I'm showing you is original data, and as I've just shown you, the 1930s were warmer, the warmer decade than the past decade, if you use original data. That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
And if you have something that's different than that, my guess would be, although without knowing what your data is, I can't say for sure, is probably that this is manipulated data by NOAA, NASA, or the subunit of NASA that deals with climate. And what they do is they make what they call adjustments to their data, the net effect of which is to make the earlier warm periods, like the 1930s, cooler, and raise the temperature of the last decade artificially, not from the original data. Mine is original data.
Is this a conspiracy?
I'm not into conspiracy, so I have no comment on that. I'm simply a data purveyor, so I'm going to present you with data, and you can draw your own conclusions. You probably didn't realize, if you watch TV news every year, that Europe is having the coldest winter in 100 years. I hadn't heard that, and I started looking up the data, and I'm aware that Moscow is buried under 6 feet of snow. They're having the coldest winter in 100 years. Moscow is virtually paralyzed. They had a traffic jam that was 100 miles long. That's true of all of the Central European area, Germany, Poland, Russia, Norway, Sweden, and also Great Britain. This area is having the bitterest, snowiest, coldest winter in 100 years. So much for global warming. This is England, and England is having the coldest, snowiest winter in about 50 years. They're not quite as cold as this part of the country. You'll never see this on TV, although it's big news, and now the news media in parts of Germany, Poland, and parts of Russia are finally beginning to say, oh, yeah, that's right, it is the coldest winter. How can we have that kind of thing going on if we're supposed to have accelerating warming? Cold costs lives. Cold is more dangerous than heat. You kill more people in a cold winter than you do in a hot summer. And in England this year, the coldest spring in 50 years this is just in the spring, has cost 5,000 lives. 5,000 people died for causes that are attributable to cold. And there are another 2,000 extra deaths in just the first 2 weeks of March, 3,000 something in February. And the only point I want to make here is that cold is a greater enemy than heat, than warm. Warmth is good, cold is going to kill more people. So the conclusion is that global warming ended in 1998, and by that I mean modern, which is the warm period that everybody agrees on occurred between 1978 and 1998. There's been no global warming in 15 years. The temperatures have not exceeded those in 1998. And the global warming that took place between 1978 and 1998 has been replaced by global cooling for the past decade, despite the fact that CO2 continues to rise. U.S. winters are cooling at a rate of -2 to -8 degrees during the past decade, again, inconsistent with global warming. That's because
Chris, You're on.
Spook.
Yes. Where's your headphones?
You are? Oh,
Where's your headphones? Yeah. Welcome, everybody. This is the live stream special about geoengineering with our friend Matt from the US. This is podcast 222. Chris, you've got your sound still on your PC on YouTube. Can hear it reverting back. The audio from this show will be this week's release. It will be uploaded to sheepfarm.co.uk and Podomatic. The format is simple. We try and release a minimum of 4 shows a month. Members get the full podcast plus download. Non-members get part 1. You need to turn that off, Chris.
I know, I'm kind of fine.
All new shows are released on Saturdays. Amateurs. I've got working with rank amateurs. Podcasts are always available at sheepfarm.co.uk. We also put part 1 on Podomatic that ship them out to Spotify, Amazon, Google, and Apple. Have you done it, Chris?
Yeah. Is that right?
Well done. Yeah.
You sound a bit echoey.
Do I?
Yeah. Does mine sound all right?
Sounds all right, yeah.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Does it still sound echoey? Everything's in all right.
Sounds a bit echoey.
No, everything we're all right. I think we're all right. Tell us in the chat if everything sounds all right. Right. Well, that's about it, really. Subscribe to the website for email notifications. There's no membership needed for that. Join us on Instagram. Chris is clocking it up, although he keeps forgetting how many numbers he's got. But we've got him to about 1,100. But anyway, there you go.
Clocking up what?
Clocking up about 1,100 members. He said 2,000 last night.
I know, I got it wrong. That was my gaping gobs.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody who orders supplements from Health Bunker. Remember to use the promo code when you do. And Chris has just mentioned his gaping gobs, and you'll see the merch site at the bottom. Everyone asks me where the merch site is. Well, there you go. It's there. Right, we might as well bring Matt in, Chris, haven't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mr. Landman.
Mr. Landman, yes.
Hi, Matt.
Good evening, or good day, Mr. Landman.
Nice to see you again, mate.
Hey, am I on?
You're on, man. You're live.
Beautiful. I was just looking up a couple things because I'm going to be on it today. I want to definitely cover a few things for sure. But how are y'all doing? What's up?
Yeah, good.
We're good, man. Yeah, all good. As good as we can be in this lunacy.
I'll tell you what is quite funny, fellas. Day before yesterday, after all these years, my missus said, Chris, come here, look at this. And showed me a plane going into the sky with a white trail behind it. I'm like, Lou, after all this time of me wanging on, it's the first time she says, doesn't that look weird? And I said, well, it is weird. Yeah. And then I pointed out another 5 to her. I'm like, look, there. And now she's seen it for herself. I think the penny's finally dropped, if you know what I mean. I suppose sometimes you have to just see it for yourself, don't you? And go, that looks weird.
You do.
Instead of listening to me wanging on about it, I suppose it's just better that she discovers it for herself. But she's on board now, after all these years.
Yeah, everyone does. And it's beautiful because the sky is right there for everybody. And it doesn't matter pretty much where you are. If you just pay attention, you'll be able to see it. My mom was like, yeah, Matt, good job. Go get him, but she was like rolling her eyes in the back of her head, like, get a real job, And I made the movie. I made her watch it. She said she watched it at least. And then I hosted 3 conferences, one in Vancouver, Canada, then one in Portland, Oregon, and then one in Tucson, Arizona, to stop Bill Gates from dimming the sun. This big thing. I got arrested and all this stuff. Then my mom came to visit me in Arizona, and she saw the sky in Arizona, which it's like desert, so it's usually really beautiful blue. You can't really hide chemtrails in the desert sky. Yeah. There's not like layers of fog clouds like in England. Yeah. And she saw it for herself, and she didn't really know how to filter her words, and she was like, it's actually true. And I was like, after years of like my whole life being devoted to it, and her like, placating me, pretending like she cared, I was just like, but now, I mean, it's been years. And now
it's only mothers that can do that. Only mothers can put you down like that, can they?
Right.
But what my missus said something quite interesting. She says, maybe I just don't look up that much. And I think a lot of people don't, do they? They just don't. I mean, I'm always staring into the sky up to see a UFO or some weird shit. A lot of people just don't look up. They don't look up into the sky very often.
Well, you need also a suspicious mind once you start to realize that they're lying to you everywhere.
And a memory. People that have a memory, they don't remember what it used to look like, do they?
Does that audio sound a bit better, Chris?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's good now. Yeah, they may as well be lying on the ground we're walking on. I mean, they pretty much do by putting rubber on our soles and telling us that tree huggers are crazy, about grounding and whatnot. But it's like they do lie about our air and our skies and everything else. So once you start to realize everything's a lie, then the clouds may as well be lying too,
That's another thing, actually. I've got a pair of boots, right? And do you remember when boots used to have leather soles?
What, them yellow ones?
No, I've got a pair of dealer boots, and they've all got rubber soles now. They used to have leather soles, didn't they? And I sent him a message. Do you not remember when all decent shoes had a leather sole? And she's like, yeah, but you just have to replace them. Well, you did. That's why you went to cobblers. Now they've just got this solid rubber sole that never. Well, I've had them 3 years, and the sole's exactly like when I bought them.
Yeah. Funnily, didn't the Beatles write an album called that?
Rubber sole, yeah, they did, didn't they?
We're all going to be wearing rubber soles. Yeah, nothing to see here.
Right.
Interesting, Matt, right? My son reminded me today of a story about when my grandson was born. I was taking a picture of him, and then I went, oh, look at that, a chemtrail. So, yeah, he always gives me a lot of grief.
Yeah, he told me that story.
I took a picture of a chemtrail, not first picture of my grandson.
Nice. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, his nephew told me that story. Max said
your nephew?
My nephew, sorry. He said he got the camera out and then went, is that a chemtrail?
Yeah, I used to be like that. Now I get so many pictures every single day. I don't even have to take pictures of them. I mean, unless it's like absolutely obliterated the sky. So what? How yellow are these boots? Are they like rain boots? Or are they yellow?
Oh no, sorry, they're like leather boots,
inky boots,
like leather boots. Just a pair of leather. I forgot what they call them now. Them boots made in Tasmania.
You're not selling them to me, Chris.
No, I forgot what they're called.
They're bright yellow. They're bright yellow, or
no, the leather, the brown leather.
I would take a piss out of that. I would take a piss out of him.
He's been a knobhead, man.
I'm talking bollocks, Matt.
Okay.
Someone messaged when I put your thing on Instagram. Said, I hope he says knobhead.
Yeah.
Meaning you.
You know what? I've went to England a couple times and Scotland as well. And last time, I mean, every time we go on the show, I talk about how I absolutely adore, and even more so, I've been falling in love with the language of the British people, of the people of the United Kingdom. And it's like, I couldn't imagine it'd be so fun and funny. And you guys probably won't even laugh at this one, but cling film. I just learned cling film, and I think it's hilarious. I had the biggest laugh to myself the other day because I was trying to talk to my friend. I was like, "Yeah, we could just get some Saran wrap, And they're like, deer in the headlights. I'm like, Saran wrap, and then eventually we got that. Oh, cling film, and I'm like, And for people, yeah. And tannoy. I don't know if I told you about tannoy yet. That's a hilarious word.
What do you say? What do you say?
A megaphone.
It has to be bigger,
Megaphone is the word for us. Yeah, tannoy is I'm just like, what is that? But yeah, so funny learning. And in what I learned, especially going to London recently, is you all don't give a shit. You're just so funny. Like it could be making fun of your brother like you guys do, or just taking the piss about the Queen, or making fun of just situations. Like I got stuck on the tube, right? And they thought like somebody had left a backpack, or there was like a bomb scare or whatever. But I started having a laugh because nobody would make any eye contact with anybody. I got on and I was like, how long have you all been sitting here? It smelled like they'd been sitting there for like an hour. It smelled so bad. And they looked like they'd been stinking up the place for at least an hour. And I'm like, how long y'all been here? Nobody would make any eye contact with me. So I started making jokes with this older woman from India, and we started laughing about how everyone was just still not making eye contact after an hour. And I was saying like, y'all could end up living here together and still never even speak. but it's funny, the rapport, because in the States, people will probably fight you for making eye contact in the city, stuff like that. And I get so many smiles in London, and I can like have conversations, and just people are fun and funny, and you never know. You'll end up at the pub and you don't even expect it. And it's just, I love it. I want to ask you all a question, if you don't mind. I think that do you mind?
No. It's fine away.
Come on,
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here, mate.
Right? It's beautiful. Well, yeah, I'm the guest, but I want to really ask you guys something. I see something happening in the UK. I do see it. There is an awakening. It's happening, and I'm witnessing it firsthand, not just online, but when I go over there, and there's different metrics through which you can take the pulse of like the awakening of humanity, you know, and even just on my Facebook feed, people contacting me from England, Ireland, for resources and asking me to come speak at their events and what have you. There is an awakening happening over there. It's happening. But what do you all think? Why? What do you think? Why it's happening?
Well, in fairness, I can't say my neighbours are awakening.
No, overall, I know there's always
overall,
gonna be
I
people.
know.
There's, yeah.
I would say there's more people questioning what's going on now. When I talk to people don't sort of moonwalk out the room like they used to do.
Right.
As Chris says, I think people are taking note that there's some kind of scam happening. They don't quite. A lot of people don't. We call it Middle England. The NPCs don't quite understand what it is, but they realise that nobody's here to save them anymore.
Well, I think because they voted in Keir Starmer, so the new Prime Minister, and they thought that this was going to bring change because everything was heading shit, and he just made it all worse. So people who believed in the system are starting to go, hang on a minute, this isn't right. He's a lying bastard, just like the rest of them. So I think there is a bit of that in there.
I think he's a reasonable gentleman, Chris.
They're realizing he's a total knobhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he talks bollocks.
Yeah, talks bollocks and he's a knobhead.
Cool. I love it. I think it's really amazing and beautiful, and it's going to be slow, of course. And I've analyzed that too. I think it's because we want it to be fast because we've been awake for a while, and we're like, come on now. It's like, get with the program. Is this your first rodeo or whatever? But also, I believe in a spiritual journey that we're on. We are spiritual beings that are slowed down. Our vibration is slowed down into physical form. So we come from a faster place, basically. We come from places where things manifest instantaneously and stuff like that, where our true essence comes from, our higher self. And so in physical form, everything's way more dense. And these, people or NPCs or whatever you want to call them, they're slow to oh, really? Is something really going on? While the bombs are dropping, they're like, wait, they wouldn't do that to us, right? But they do, and they are. It's kind of a rhetorical question, what's fueling the awakening? I think overall, it's all the darkness. The more that you try to pull the wool over the people's eyes, the more they realize that they're getting the wool pulled over their eyes. You know what I mean? People are starting. It's like when you're in a dream and things aren't adding up, and you're like, "Wait, am I sleeping right now?" Literally, I must be sleeping. There's literally a red elephant in my, living room, and this can't be real or whatever. You know what I mean? You start to ask these big questions, and it's this kind of double-edged sword. As the darkness shows itself, we see it, and we see, wait, there's darkness. Well, what am I? Am I on that team? No, I'm not a Satanist. I don't eat the babies like they do. So what am I? I'm part of the light then. And then you see, oh wait, there's duality, there's light and there's dark. And then that kind of starts to create this rising within you. Also the lockdowns. I mean, they couldn't be more blatant with taking everything away from everyone and whatnot. Also, people are starting to pass away from what occurred during the lockdown. So that's waking people up as well. Also the weather warfare, the geoengineering, the chemtrails, the solar radiation management, all that whatnot. What I was looking at right when you guys got me on is
you sound like I didn't realize you were one of them conspiracy theorists, Matt.
So I had to get this acronym down. You all know about the program in the UK. It's there's a public geoengineering program funded through the UK government, and it's called, and they refer to it as Satan, right? And I had to look it up to make sure that I could nail it. It's the Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation Program. But they just don't want to say all the big words because that could scare people away, Yeah. So they make sure they say Satan. We got to fund Satan, get Satan going and fuel the Satan program.
Would it shock you if they'd invested 666 million into the project?
No, not at all.
It must have took him ages to get those words to match and for it to actually say certain as
No,
well.
I think there's a full team somewhere coming up with acronyms. Yeah, the acronym team, the secret acronym team.
That would have been hard work, to make that.
What's really funny is in most acronyms, they don't like use the word ands and of, like they don't use those in the acronym. Like if it's got an and or an of, they'll like skip it. But in the Satan, they just had to throw it in there. So it's stratospheric aerosol transportation and nucleation. And then that's the A is very key to make it actually.
Yeah. So you can imagine it. You can imagine in the meeting, can't you? No, we don't usually put an and in. No, we'll slide it in this time.
It's actually very important this time. Yeah. Right. Unreal.
True. Just about the awakening thing, Matt. Do you think? I mean, I personally think there was almost a natural awakening of human beings even before 2020, and I think the 2020 thing was to cover it up. I mean, I'll never understand why or what it was, but you know, the distancing, isolation, and all the other stuff. I think it was to cover up a natural next phase we were going into, if you like. And I think, every country's become a little bit more fascist since then. So that's why everyone's
commune fascist.
Yeah. Well, everything everywhere in lockstep's just become a little bit harder on it and a bit tougher on its populace. So I think that's why people are naturally waking up as well as you know we're doing anyway. I think
the issue is a bit like Matt. The more darkness or lies that are told, to tell a lie, you've got to tell an element of truth, and at some point, that element of truth will. What is it? Churchill said, "Lies have got to be protected by a bodyguard of truth," or something like that. And the truth then. They notice the truth, don't they? It's quite blatantly obvious, and the truth has to get bigger the bigger the lie. Like 9/11, like all these other things that went on. But the JFK files will sort us out. And Elon Musk's going to release the Pfizer files, and me and Chris were joking, Matt. Sorry, me and Chris were joking the other week on a podcast that the only thing we're going to get is the Rockford files.
Yeah, I was seeing somebody talk about it online, and if any file should come out, it should be 9/11. I mean, like, come on, like, how did the Building 7 fall like it did? We've got to find out the truth surrounding that. And
jet fuel.
Christian, right? And Christian, you mentioned that's a whole thing. Last show we talked about the indoctrination of the jet fuel. So because jet fuel burns so hot, it can take down buildings, and that's why we got all these lines in the sky and tic-tac-toe grid. That's the entire world. I think in 1999, we were on the verge of an awakening. We don't need to make this show about movies, but if you look at the movies, all the movies that were coming out, there was quality stuff. Like the human spirit was becoming really creative, and there was a creativity, and there was an element of the human spirit of consciousness that kind of had to get quelled, it seems like. Because come along 2001, there was this kind of awakening of spirit happening already, it seemed. And then there was the internet was going to be there to like give us the resources to share all this stuff far and wide. But instead, you know what we got during the internet? One of the first things I ever watched on the internet was probably a CIA video, now that I think about it. But it was a terrorist cutting off a journalist's head. Like, because like, I mean, literally, that was one of the first things I was shown on the internet. My friend was like, "Yo, look at this! Check this out!" And it was like, the guy was like, "Oh!" And it was like horrible. Literally, I think it was staged, and so much fear was surrounding 9/11. If you think about it through the right lens, which I did not have that lens on now. I mean, nowadays when something happens, I like laugh at it like every single time. But I think almost every single thing that comes out in the mainstream media, even I don't know if you guys know about Hawk-Twa. But
I just saw that recently. Oh my god!
That
what
nonsense.
Hawk-Twa girl.
Did you guys have it viral where you were? Because it was.
I didn't see it. I just saw it.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere, and I started meditating on it. And there's like quantum computers that are like, give the dumbass humans this shit to eat. You know what I mean? And they're just like, people gobble it up, right? So the whole world, and maybe you guys are a little slow over there on the Hawk-Twa, you know, who cares?
Well, I saw Sean, it was saying the things that were famous, the internet sensations. I saw it on there just like a week ago. I'd never actually heard of it personally.
It was so viral. Like, come on, the algorithm wanted that to be at the top too. like it's like from like we're in this like slippery slope, right? We're on the slippery slope to getting like QR codes on our foreheads and all being like one sexuality. Like
I've got a big forehead.
You probably have 3 of them, right? So to get us from A to Z, they have to keep implanting these things. Like if you've seen the documentary / film Idiocracy, so Idiocracy is like, how did it get to there? Like later. They had to have these steps, like baby steps. So one baby step towards just a dystopian effed up future where we're all idiots is Haktwa. Like Haktwa was just like, how can we make them dumber with one short clip? And they hired this girl. It was all paid and scripted, and it had to be like super sexual and inappropriate and like dumb, you know, and like it can't be anything thought-provoking or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think all these little bits and pieces are psyops, all of them, every last one. You just watch the news; it's like fear, 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 sex, sex, sex. Don't go out. You know, the planes are all crashing now. By the way, everywhere you look, planes are crashing. So I look at the mainstream media just to see what the jokes are, and oh wow, we could do a whole show on this. The narrative in the States now is poor Elon Musk. His cars are getting bombed.
Yeah, what is that, Matt? I've seen it, but I haven't paid any attention.
It's a psyop. So every single thing I have to like extrapolate. So as an activist truther, we have to sit down now and be like, what's the writing on the wall? Well, they say terrorists are Yasida, and then they're going to go to Iraq, and then they're going to do this, and then they're going to take away our freedoms, and then and then you've got all this money going towards black ops, and then the constant war on terror, and now we're just like bombing the shit out of Yemen because they have Iraqis living there. It's like insanity, right? It's like, how did they get to this military state? It's like, oh, they did the 9/11 thing, and if we had the lens at that time, we could see it and like see the writing on the wall step by step. Oh, they're going to do all these things, like the General Wesley, like they're going to go to Syria, Al
Qaeda running Syria. That was a funny one. But the nice Al Qaeda, not the ones we were.
Oh yeah, not the horrible ones.
No, they're a different group.
Not that one that Matt saw cutting that guy's head off.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. One of my favourites was when ISIS came out. And the tagline was, "They're so bad, Al Qaeda won't even have them." Oh my God! We've got millions of dollars in the bank, ready to do whatever they want. It's like, fucking hell! I just dreamed up a James Bond bad group of people. You know, it's insane. What are you talking about?
It's very well scripted. I mean, it's actually horribly scripted, but people eat it. People eat it to death. In my liberal town now, there's permanent Ukraine flags, like just everywhere, like not even in front of homes, just like in random abandoned buildings and the train tracks and stuff. And I'm just like,
to a country that no one had heard of up until
right, exactly. Mind you.
Can't even
so
put it on a map.
Well, I tell you what, if you thought of Ukraine, right, you thought Nazi. If anybody did of Ukraine, you thought Nazi, because that is what the Ukraine Azov battalion, etc., going back 10, 20 years was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's all an inversion, just like everything else. I mean, it's just everything is just upside down, and people like supporting something that's the opposite of what they actually believe in. It's actually really weird and sad and crazy.
Going back to films, Matt, which films then at the turn of the century were the ones? Would you say, or just off your head? I mean, there might be some more that we forget about, but so we're not going to say we're going to get everybody. But
I was just going to say, actually, Matt, Idiocracy. Do you remember the president is an ex-wrestler?
He's got
the whole get on as well.
When Elon Musk came out with the chainsaw, I don't know if you saw that nonsense, but Elon Musk came out with a chainsaw with some nonsense a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, this is out of the film Idiocracy. The creativity in the films coming out of all over the world. There's Takeshi Kitano. He's a great director out of Japan. He's amazing. He's like stars in and writes and directs, and he came up with some really creative, amazing movies. Quentin Tarantino, even Francis Ford Coppola. But like, there were so many creative and amazing films. Now all we have is sequels. That's all we get is like a sequel to a sequel to a sequel to a sequel, and they continuously get worse, and we just keep getting dumber and dumber and paying more for movies. You know what I mean? But there were like really creative and funny, like actually funny things too. I mean, but we've changed too. I go back and watch like Dumb and Dumber and Something About Mary and all these movies, and I'm like, oh, they might not be as funny as I thought, but there still was so much more, creativity. You know,
and they didn't seem to be as agenda driven, although there were things in there obviously at the time. But now it's just so as soon as it starts,
blatant. You only need to know the title, and you know
Right.
what it's about, don't you?
Yeah,
I
that's
see
why I
it
don't
coming.
watch previews. That's why I'm like, don't even tell me what it's about. I went to a movie the other day. I was like, I don't even care. Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me a single word. I don't care. And it ended up being about climate change. I didn't even know the movie was about climate change until I went home and looked it up, and I was like, what did I just watch? It was a movie from Estonia.
Oh, he's frozen, Matt. Oh, he's gone.
Matt's gone.
Oh no!
Oh, no, he's here. He's come back in. There you go.
Oh, they didn't
there
like
you
me making fun of that movie, whatever. So let's just go to the cars real quick. So every time anything's in the mainstream media, it's just like they're doing something here. So I didn't realize that our good old I don't want to make any horrible jokes. I'll get you guys in trouble. Adolf Hitler, when he tried to get all the people. Well, I don't want this show to get like pulled. Is what I'm saying.
No, crack on.
So Hitler, he came out with the Volkswagen. And he was like, we're going to get all the Germans a cheap car. We're going to have everyone happy. And it was a government car, right? Well, they're taking a page out of that book. They want to come out with a government electric vehicle, cheap car to push everybody onto while waging war with Iran, and the petrol goes through the roof. And then they say, actually, we're going to ban petrol anyways. You're welcome. It's green. And then no one can get petrol. And all they can get is a cheap Tesla. Because everyone's like, oh, Tesla's too expensive.
Poor Elon Musk.
Right? Poor Musk. So what's going to happen is Elon Musk's like stock is crashing and his cars are getting bombed all of a sudden. Bullshit. Nobody has the can I curse at least? Yeah. Nobody has the fucking balls to bomb a fucking car in the United States. Like they all wear masks and don't have the balls to do anything about anything ever. Like literally. Like when we first got locked down and the mainstream media came out in the UK and was like 77 cell towers got burned down by activists. No activist has the balls to burn down a fucking cell tower in the UK. I'm sorry. Yes, there's the Blade Runners and that's cool, but those are little cameras that you can take down with the Sawzall, not a massive cell tower. It's not happening. It didn't happen. And the number 77 is the giveaway. It was obviously the 77th Brigade, MI6, whatever, CIA, FBI, whatever, whoever you want to call them. And it's to create this idea that the conspiracy theorists are rogue and crazy. So if you read the media, it says crazy right-wingers, which now Elon Musk is on the right. He's a politician, you know. So like, why radical right wingers would be bombing his cars? That doesn't make any sense. But saying that the liberals are bombing his cars, that wouldn't make any sense either, because they literally have no balls because they cut the balls off. So there's like they don't have it. So they're like, oh, we've got to demonize this other sect. We'll say there's a rogue element in this other group that's now bombing Teslas because they don't like the guy, because he said some like offhanded comments about God knows what. Not because he's trying to turn you into a fucking robot and enslave humanity. No. That's not why people don't like him. They don't like his cars and his statements about something. I don't know. He said some offensive shit, whatever the fuck, like Canada sucks or whatever, because everything's like blown out of proportion, whatever. And so the cars like going out, the car company's going out of business. All of his stupid Jeep things. What are those things called?
The truck, Tesla truck.
Don't they offend you with them, Matt? When you look at one, it offends you. Yeah, it offends you, doesn't it? You know, yeah,
I'll tell you why it offended me. I got pulled over the other day for not wearing my seatbelt coming out of the gym, and I got $100 ticket for nothing. Like, everything is up to code. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I pay all my things, and I didn't even know. You guys don't have to go in and get tags on your license plate every year. We have to pay for a little sticker that says the year on our license plate every single year, or they can pull over and give you another ticket. So I'm doing everything except for I didn't put on my seatbelt, which should be my right? Like, literally, I can euthanize myself legally, but I can't drive around the neighborhood without this thing over my chest. Okay, so I get a $100 ticket. A couple days later, I see one of these Tesla trucks trying. You can't see if there's a human being in the car. You can't tell if they're driving around.
Anybody who owns one of them isn't human anyway.
No, exactly. So how is that even fair? Number one. Two, they just look stupid. They look like you're driving around like a polished dumpster. And now the doors are falling off. So the doors are falling off and people are just like rolling out and dying. And there's all this news in the States. I don't know if you know about this. So every single one of those has been recalled. So now Tesla is like, oh, I'm not the richest man in the world anymore. Someone cry for me. And everyone's like, oh. And then the world is like, don't cry for me. I'm just the richest man. Don't worry. I've got my billionaire bunker and we're going to turn you on the robots. And so what's going to happen is the hero, I don't know if you know that he's actually Jesus. Donald Trump is Jesus Christ. I don't know if you knew this. The way
I can see those nail holes in his hands. When he's like this.
Yeah.
It
comes and goes. He's got the what is that word? Where the
stigmata.
He's got the stigmata, and that's how he's able to heal his ear so fast. He's the second coming of. No, I actually was thinking about this today, and I'm sorry, everyone loves RFK, but I don't. RFK, Musk, and Trump.
Can I ask you something, right, Matt? Can I ask you something, right? On my screen here now, these are 4 questions that I was going to ask you about, right? One of them was about Professor Don Easterbrook, which we'll talk about later. And one of them is Trump, RFK, Musk. That's what it says. Just to ask you about RFK and Musk, and you're already doing it.
Yeah, those three are the Trinity, right? Yeah. But everything in this world is an inversion. And in case you don't know, the Starbucks logo, the peace sign, every car logo, I'm realizing, is an inversion. The Honda, Toyota Saturn, like the Nike swoosh is like, I'm actually rocking some satanic thing. I didn't even know it. Yeah, I didn't even know I was walking around representing Satan my whole life. Excuse me. Right? Like the peace sign is an absolute inversion. And these guys, through their propaganda machine and their control on everything and their absolute lies that they say they're going to do things, but then they're doing the opposite, right? They are the inversion of the Holy Trinity. They are the Antichrist, the three of them. Bam. And so they're an inversion of the three of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. They're like the absolute evil, but they tell people through propaganda, through memes. Oh, I don't know if you know that Twitter just got sold to Elon Musk's AI business. So this whole time he's like, oh, freedom of speech. Yeah, he was just collecting data. Obviously, like if anybody didn't realize that, and now he's sold, and now they've gotten the rights to being able to be a payment processor. So they changed their name to X. Yeah, go ahead.
Trump seems to be flying to Saudi Arabia a lot. And who owns X really? Not Elon Musk. But Saudi Arabia, or Twitter as it was then. So also, just RFK, right? Something dawned on me the other day. The reason he's not bothered about Palestine is because his father was supposedly shot by a Palestinian, Saran. He was a Palestinian.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's what. Anyway, that's something we're going to talk about. But anyway, sorry, I stopped being full flow. Crack on.
No, that makes perfect sense because Saudi Arabia is trying to push this whole like smart city and AI revolution, but they need their foot in the door in the States because the US is like wants to become a China, but they can't do it without like lying to us and tricking us into thinking it's something good. So you get all these truther people and whatnot, like praising Musk, and then he sells Twitter, which is X now, which X will be the mark of the beast because it's got a payment processing system now that they've bought, and they're going to have like an X on you, like literally mark of the beast. And now it's owned by this AI company. So anyways, I just finished the thought on the car company. Elon Musk's precious Teslas, the company will go and start to fail. And then Trump will have to bail them out. And then they'll become part owned by the US government, if not fully owned by the government. Then the government will be able to subsidize a car for everyone because everyone's going to slam Trump for dropping out of the Paris Accord, not being very, very green. And he's going to be like, well, here you go, world. We've got this cheap electric car. And it might not be mandated at first, but eventually it'll be the only option. And it'll be the dystopia we all knew was coming, the Agenda 2030, what have you, where we're monitored and tracked and our cars can't go very far, and we're not going to be able to fly much either. I want to say one thing before I forget. Did you see that they're rolling out in Australia carbon labeling on food? So everything you buy is going to say, this is how much carbon it took for you to get it from A to Z. And they're going to eventually have that on all the food everywhere in the world. And then eventually the currency is going to be based on that. And then everything's going to be like, well, it's all carbon based because global warming and all that's all based on lies. So it's like your coffee is going to be really expensive unless you live somewhere tropical. Your banana is going to be really expensive, all on this carbon, kind of thing.
I read an article the other day, Matt, and it was it was about catering, because I work as a chef, catering in film sets. Different catering. Nothing conspiratorial, but it said on the menu it has the carbon footprint on each dish, and that's like Hollywood, So they're cooking for famous people. It was a story about cooking for famous people. It wasn't about anything to do with climate change. But it said, even on the menu in the thing, they've got the carbon footprint on the side of each dish, so you can be aware of which dish to have to make sure you're not fucking. Come on.
So, am I sharing my screen right now?
You are, mate. Yeah, I thought somebody else had come in the chat then. I thought I can't remember sending another invite. Yeah.
So I just want to bring this up too. So this is the sustainable goals for the New World Order, takeover, disguised as we're saving you from your own self. The climate is bad, right? But little did we know, like being the geoengineering, chemtrails, climate, warfare, weather warfare guy, I never would have thought a decade ago when I dove into this and started making my movie Frankenstein and hosting conferences and whatnot, I never would have thought that this climate lie would be the foundation of our enslavement. Like it is the very cornerstone of how they're pushing everything. So here we've got 17, but really I think all of these are smokescreen for number 13, right? If you just think about it, number 13 with a big eye over the globe, which is already scary as shit. Like, what is that shit? It's like, we're going to watch you all the time to make sure you don't breathe, because we release carbon when we breathe, right? So think about like all these like gender equality. How is that a sustainable goal? Number 5, like just think about all these things like life and land and affordable clean energy, no poverty. They don't give a fuck about poverty. Okay. If you think about it, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I just dropped out of that picture.
Yeah, I pulled it out. So if you think about it, that climate action is the lie. It's the entire narrative. So I started seeing that all these dams are being pulled up all over Europe to the tune of like 500 a year ever since the lockdowns. So each year
we did a show called "The Wettest Drought Since Records Began" in 1854, Chris, something like that, in the UK. And when they privatised the water in the UK, they were building new dams up to that point, or new reservoirs, as we call them over here. And they've closed hundreds of reservoirs in this country alone. Bear in mind, it pisses down constantly here. So there should never be a drought here.
And there's not been a new one built. I think it was done since the 90s.
Since they floated, or since they privatised all the water, they haven't built one new reservoir. We should be the centre of reservoirs. It should be our biggest commodity, one of our biggest commodities in this country.
Especially up north.
No kidding.
Pisses down all the time.
Especially with all the farmland that you have. I mean, everything should be properly irrigated and there should be never a worry of it at all. But then that would give people freedom and real sustainability, and the farmers wouldn't have to be overruled by the government, which strips them of their sovereignty by telling them what they can and can't do, what have you. Yeah, it's shocking. So like Valencia, Spain, and all over like Spain, Portugal, France, all over Europe, these dams are being pulled. And then the cities that were previously protected in these, flood zones, because the dams were built for a reason, right? Now they're in floodplain zones, right? And then they're using this news to push this climate action. Like they're creating all these scenarios. And now there's fires in the UK as of today. I don't know if you saw that. Some fires just popped off. I got it on my feed. I don't know how extreme it is, if it's just the mainstream blowing it out of proportion. But we've got fires now in the UK and in California today. And that's all part of the agenda. Like the chemtrails, they're desiccant. They dry things up. They're patented fire accelerants. They create winds over the fires. They could make rain with their technology over the fires. They don't. And then they make these extreme conditions just to sell their narrative, which is, as you know, 15-minute cities, climate action, following every carbon footprint and what have you. I mean, geoengineering is in there as well. Like, we're doing it for your own good. It's all nonsense.
I've seen quite
But
a few
yeah,
videos lately, Matt, of them actually admitting the geoengineering. I know they have done for a while now, but there's quite a lot of them around now, different ones as well, of them admitting that they're trying to reflect the sun back into the stratosphere to save us from, which is literally Snowpiercer, isn't it? The beginning of Snowpiercer, which turns into a shit show, dystopian future, when everything freezes over. They're actually saying this is what we're doing, and they've got these guys, these learned professionals, telling you what we're going to do next. We're going to block out the sun.
yeah, they'll tell you that they're doing it, or that they're going to do it, or that they're experimenting doing it. Then they'll have even degrees in it where you can get a master's degree in it at the university or whatever. But then if you try to tell them it's going on right now and you're concerned, they just take the piss and tell you you're full of it. Another director, Dom, is Wes Anderson. Like, there were these creative kind of films. Creativity was inspiring and encouraged out of Hollywood, and now it's just like they're trying to continuously dumb everyone down through lack thereof. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, speaking of creativity, if I can segue into the protest really quick. So I'm so blessed that there's an awakening community in the world where I've got artists and all sorts of people reaching out to me. I just had to tell people that I was hosting this protest on summer solstice in London. And geoengineering, chemtrail, weather warfare protest, or gathering, we'll call it, because I guess there's sensitive words over there. We're coming together to have a conversation, right? In love of the blue sky, at least, honoring the sun on the longest day of the year. But I've had multiple people reach out to me and say, "Hey, mate, let me make you a flyer. Hey, mate, can I come perform and help DJ your event?" And I think it's just beautiful that there's so many people with their skill sets that are actually awake. And I encourage anybody else, if they want to reach out to me, help me make a flyer or perform, musicians or speakers. Or you guys want to come speak? Maybe Dom is busy. Christian, what's up?
Yeah, I'll introduce Matt. I don't know about speaking. I'm not really good at public speaking.
Come on down.
I think my son's gonna come as well, and he'll bring his guitar.
Beautiful.
He can sing the Sheep Farm theme tune.
That would be wonderful. It's going to be an annual event. It's going to be a really big deal. I think the timing is absolutely perfect because I don't know why exactly. We talked about it earlier, but in the UK, people are really, really, really waking up to the
I think this is what it seems like to me. Me and Chris a few years ago said, I'm going to be guided now by the universe to take me where it's going to take me. So you put a thought out there, and if it takes you there, it takes you there. And I think that's what's happening, Matt, isn't it? That seems to be what's happening. Sounds a bit spiritual and all that type of stuff, but it seems to be working at the minute for me. That, and Chris, I think it's working for you and all, Chris. Seems to be working for you as well.
It's quite weird actually, because I didn't really think about this, but in 2019, I quit my job and went self-employed, which I'd never done before really, and I also stopped eating meat as well. Not for any reason, I just did. And I thought I didn't think about it till recently. I thought there was two massive things to do just before.
Did you stop wearing yellow boots?
I'll never stop wearing yellow boots. Oh, Jeff's in it. But there was, I don't know, for no reason really, but the two massive life-changing things I did just before 2020. That's what I mean about it being a natural thing that people, I think, were experiencing to an extent, and it was getting hijacked by the fucking system.
I think everybody's going through their reflective period, and people call it a dark night of the soul or whatever, but people go through their times, and I think everyone's collectively rising to the occasion to have an elevation of consciousness. And the darkness is showing itself. Like last June, I know the UK hardly got any sun, and then they were like, it was the sunniest, warmest June on record in the history of the UK. And people are like, wait, I got no sun at all. Did you all get any sun? And they're like, it's been nothing but a chemtrail haze. So
I was looking in the sky today, Matt. I was out and I got doing allotment, and it was sunny, but it was cold. And you could see the haze over the sun, that haze that these things create. You could see it over the sun, and you could tell that it was stopping it getting as warm as it would have done There was a cool breeze, even though the sun was high in the sky, and it should have
That's
been
another
hotter.
thing, Chris, isn't it? When a cloud goes over the sun, it gets windy for some reason, even in the middle of summer.
Yeah, the weather's definitely it's definitely changed. It's definitely changed, and you can see that film just over everything, and the sun's just not shining, not as hot as it should be, I would say.
And it is impacting
And it's
the
changed colour.
crops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where did the yellow sun go? I did a little write up for the event, and I put it in the paper, the light. So it's coming out in next like in a few
Yeah, the
weeks.
great
The
guys.
Light.
Daz, doing a great job with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, Darren over there is really cool. Everybody seems really cool. And I'm in there, I did a little write up. Like, I remember just when I was a kid and growing up that the sun was very yellow and the sky was very blue and the clouds were white and fluffy. And now everything is completely different, and we can't pass this on to our children without telling them, what's
But
going on.
how many new clouds can they actually come up with?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How many? I mean, can you give this one a name? Like, I've seen some crazy things, and they've got a name for just about everything. So, for people that aren't from the UK, an allotment is. I didn't know what this word was. These are all. It's so fun. These new words. They're really fun. An allotment is a garden bed that you like maybe you have in your community or whatever. It's usually like a raised bed where you come together and you can have your own little garden, even though you live in the city. So that's beautiful. I actually just built out one and then gardening this year as well, and I'm really jazzed about it. But they are messing with the conditions for the gardening. So where I live, as spring comes in, they've fluctuated the temperatures now like 3 times, where it'll be like a summer day. Like recently, like a few weeks ago, it was like a hot summer day. I'll butcher it in Fahrenheit, but it was like 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know what, 28 or something. And then it's warm and all of the plants are flowering, but early. So this is very diabolical. Everything's flowering early before the pollinators are even out, because the pollinators are wise. They're bees, man. These things are like from another dimension. They're so wise and smart, and they communicate with each other, and they're like, nah, Johnny B, we're not going out because we're smarter than this. We're not going to get out stuck in some stupid snowstorm like we did last year or whatever, because they're wise. They're very intelligent. And I could talk about bees for a whole episode. I even have a book on bees by Rudolf Steiner. He did a series of lectures just on bees.
I've been reading about bees lately, actually, coincidentally.
Unbelievable they are.
But they can't even, the wings can't carry the body weight. So they reckon it's charging up a little thing inside them that somehow helps them levitate. And have you seen them experiments where they put the wings on something and they make it float? Just by putting... They reckon it's a vibration.
Didn't Elon Musk invent bees?
Monsanto has a bee. If you watch my movie Frankenskies, which please everybody check out Frankenskies the movie. It's available for free on all your everywhere you want to look on all your different video platforms. It's also on the website frankenskies.com, and in there Monsanto creates Beelogics, which is a company where they make a Monsanto bee, like a GMO bee, which is close to the Tesla bee. I don't know about the Tesla bee yet, but I'm sure he's got his little grubby paws in just about everything. I'm sure he'll start coming out with a bee company. So I can talk about bees forever. One of the most fascinating things about bees is we had this whole scare about the Africanization of bees. The killer bees are going to come get you. And I learned about why killer bees, Africanized bees, are better. It's because their process for being born when they are in, what is it called? Oh man, I'm having a brain fart. When the gestation period of the queen is 1 day shorter than all of the other types of bees. So the Africanized bee comes out earlier. And when you have, let me just explain it really quick, talk about bees really quick. It's just so cool. So queen bee, whenever a drone comes from another hive, it's got different genetics. So it goes to the queen bee and it delivers the genetics, the sperm from their tribe, from their colony. And then he's got about 30 seconds before he just explodes. And it's audible. You can hear his abdomen pop and explode. And so he's like escorted out of the hive after he's donated his sperm to the queen. And he goes out and explodes like 10 feet from the hive. And that's his last thing. He just gave the queen bee his sperm. She takes it and puts it in a little sack and has it on her person for her entire life. So she starts collecting little sperm sacs from little drone bees that are exploding from other colonies. And then when she's like worried about the colony, like she's going to split off and leave, she'll be like, I'm going to leave because the colony's getting weak or we're getting too big. Half of you come with me, surround me in a ball of bees. And then they surround her in a ball of bees and half the colony leaves. But before she leaves, she goes to the queen quarters and has the male drones that are like she has them come and they lay eggs. She lays all these eggs of all these different genetics. And so there's this area where the queens only live, the queen quarters. And all the queens wake up around the exact same time from their gestation cycle. And it's like, it's in alignment with the sun, evidently, because the sun goes through a rotation period where it spins, and it takes 23 days for it to spin or something like that. Rudolf Steiner studied. It's very intricate. And after one cycle of the sun spinning, all of the bees wake up. And the first bee to come up and wake up, it goes and takes out its stinger. And its first thing that it does as it's alive is it stabs every other queen bee in the heart as they're waking up. And then it's the ruthless like queen, and then it's empowered. But if there's an Africanized bee, it wakes up one day early, so it has the jump on everybody. It's very fascinating. The bee thing is something else. It's really cool. So that's what I have to say about bees. So thanks for listening. And I want to say one more thing. You guys said the other day that you were doing shows on synchronicities and stuff.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. I think that's so beautiful. And I just want to say thank you for that, because synchronicities are like signs from the universe, and we never really get to share them with others, but they're so real, and they're readily available if we're willing to see them.
But some of them are so meaningless that it makes them even more real, doesn't it? You know, just silly things that
most of them. I mean, even if I'm honest about the bee thing, I literally sent my son a video about bees today. Even that's the synchronicity. I mean, I don't look at bees very often, but the last couple of days I have been. And then you just talked about bees for 10 minutes. But that's synchronicity. And I was saying, Dom, that the synchronicity thing I think is good, because we did it. We did the show on it.
2.
We've done 2, yeah. But we discuss it all the time, because during 20 and onwards, I was getting loads. And when we mentioned it, people started sending theirs in, and then they started happening around the show, like what we were talking about on the show. They say, "Oh, that's just happened to me," and you were just talking about on the show. So it created something. I don't know if it just created an awareness or it made it happen more. I don't know, but it's so fascinating, isn't it? And if you can't be fascinated by that, I don't know what you can be fascinated by, in my opinion.
Well, it's showing us a view into something that we can only guess what it is. We can have some really good ideas and good conversation about it, but in reality, we can't definitely say it's that. But it looks like it's, like Matt said, it's the universe or the matrix or whatever it is, the coding that we're witnessing there. That they've only got there's only so much coding that can be utilised in that in life, and we're witnessing something extraordinary.
I find there's a balancing act to things, which is very fascinating. Maybe not everywhere, but the veil seems to be thin where I live. I live in this mountain community. Actually, I can look out my window and there's an ancient tree stump. I'm like surrounded by ancient, how old they are, I don't know. But I'm in a very magical, like volcanic area where there's these massive tree stumps and what have you. And if I have like a really shite experience, like I'll tell you.
Shite actually an American swear word?
No, I love it though, because I can say it. It's not even a bad word over here. But you know what people really don't like over here is cunt. If you spell something like cunt over here, it's not as like free flowing and fun as it is over there.
It has got a harshness to it, isn't it?
Yeah,
you'll get smacked.
It's quite a statement, isn't it? That if you utilise that one,
This is Hamish the cat.
Oh, hey there, Hamish.
I can't believe you're kissing a cat. It's just been licking its ass.
I've known him since you were a baby.
Oh, thanks, George. I think George said, Matt Landman, I love your work, and I think he might have said, I'll see you in London on the protest. So
a few people have said that.
Yeah, a few people going.
Matt, and we'll talk about the protest in a bit as well.
I put it on Instagram, and quite a few people are saying they're going. Yeah.
That's so good. So let me tell you this.
The synchronicity thing, right? It might be a good one to, when we do the next one, to get you on. Talk about some of your synchronicities. Yeah.
I'll talk about one right now.
With Mark,
I don't know if you want to call it a synchronicity or what, but it was very, very real and poignant. So the other day I was at my local coffee shop that I go to all the time, and this ex-girlfriend was there, and she was on one. I don't know if you guys know about astrology, but there was an Aries solar eclipse, and some people that are like already a little aggro. They were kind of over the edge. And if you know about astrology, you could just roll your eyes and be like, they are not in touch with their astrological self, their horoscopes. I'm just saying, like, sometimes I'm all like moody and I'm like, oh, it's probably because of the full moon. I just need to take a freaking chill pill and, you know, be alone or whatever it is. But some people, they don't get it and they're just like, ah. So
well, I just say, Chris, it's because you're a knobhead.
Exactly. So I'm at my local coffee shop and this ex-girlfriend happens to be in there and she just decides to like lose it on me for nothing. And she's like, and it was actually a really great test for me because I was just composed and I didn't say a word to her. And she's Syrian and just so loud and gorgeous also, but like not good a person. So she's like screaming at me.
Gorgeous, but not a good person.
And the whole place is like packed, like looking at her, and everyone's like, "You're in a public place, ma'am." And she's like, "I don't give a fuck." And like, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't go out in public. Oh my God." And so the next thing I did is I went to go get myself some lunch at the grocery store. And I was like, get your freaking, you know, food and go hide. Like, go hide. Go to your car. Like, don't go anywhere in public. You might see someone else, and this is going to be a bad day. You might even see that girl again, you know? And so this little voice was like, be brave and sit right out front. And I was like, what? Are you crazy, little voice? And then the voice was like, just sit right out front and eat your effing food. Like, you can't live in fear. And I was like, yeah, you're right, little voice. I'm gonna sit right out front. And I sit down, and immediately, like before I had taken my first bite, this woman, this old, nice woman from Tennessee, which is like 2,000 miles from me. She's like, I saw, she's like so excited to talk to me. She's like, I love your movie. That's what she said to me first. And I go, oh. And then we have this beautiful conversation about the world, about how we see the things, about my new podcast, Waking Up with Matt, wakingupwithmatt.com. Check it out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's plugging along. It's nice for me to be able to like vet people and talk to people for an hour that I might be interviewing for my movie and whatnot. And it's like, I have all these great conversations with people. And then I'm like, I should have recorded that. So it's kind of, that's all it really is. It's just
what's it called again? Sorry, Matt. I didn't write that down.
Wakingupwithmatt.com. Waking Up with Matt is the podcast. I actually interviewed this amazing guy who got institutionalized, put in a madhouse because he went and said, I'm EMF sensitive. And they're like, that's not a thing. And he goes, no. Like literally, the cell towers make me hurt. The cell towers hurt me, and then he. This episode was so good. I was rolling. He ended up like, because he didn't know what was going on. The poor guy during 5G, and he had like horrible heart pains, and like he is EMF sensitive, and he ended up getting this sheet metal, this like metal from the hardware store, and put it on his chest, and he went to the police station. He went to the police station because he had learned this stuff and he had this documents about this about the EMF, and he just wanted to like present it to the local courthouse and be like, you guys should do something about these 5G towers everywhere. And they just arrested him. And he didn't know what he was signing. They're like, yeah, we're gonna get you some help from this EMF radiation, bro. Sign here. And he's like, oh, thanks, really? Yeah. And he signed himself away. They put him away. And I'll just talk about this really quick. And while he was put in this institution, he had to fight to get his way out. And they're like, no, you signed the paperwork. And it was like, what are you talking about? And he had to figure out how to get the real paperwork to sign that says you can only be put away for a week. And then they have to do a mental evaluation because this paperwork he signed was like indefinitely putting himself away, right?
What
the whole thing. And then on the wall in the mental institution, it says like your rights. And it says, we're not allowed to do human experimentation on you unless you consent. And he signed his consent form thinking there was something else. And then, and this is it, and then I'm done. We can talk about the chemtrails. Okay. He said that he's only in there for a week and that it was like a complete loony bin. Like no one could sleep and they're coming in every 10 minutes to check on you, wake you up. And he's like actually like losing his mind from not sleeping. He said everybody's on these like psychotropic drugs. And this weird woman would come along every few days and give them these books and have them sing the words, but the words were all like garbled, like some like they live shit, like straight up. And like he said, it was like looking at something with drunk goggles on. Like the words were so messed up, he couldn't read the words. But everybody was like singing the song together while like drooling on fucking drugs and in a mental institution.
Imagine that.
And he like confronted the woman. He's like, "What is this? These aren't real words." And then he ended up taking it to like the administrator, and the woman got all like shook. And he thinks that they were like experimenting on people, like like getting them on psychotropics and then having them see things just like in They Live, see things that aren't there or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Bloody
be
hell.
a zombie.
He got
You're a
full on.
zombie.
He got full on
MK
one flew
Ultra.
over. He got one flew over the cuckoo nested. Yeah.
Yeah, but he got out and he was like, I gotta tell you this story, and I had him on. It was great. He got to share his story finally for the first time.
Bloody hell.
But anyways, I just want to say really quick, they make these temperature swings. So all of a sudden it'll be like a summer day, and then it'll be like a summer day for like 3 days. Everything's flowering, and then they'll bring it back to winter. All of a sudden it'll be like snowing, and it'll crush these like plum trees and cherry trees and peaches and all these I had like lettuce and different things coming up, and now they're confused. They think it's winter again, and then they think it's summer, and then all the pollen and the blossoms die off, and then the bees come to pollinate them, and you don't get any fruit that year. And then people are like, oh, it's just a bad season. But no, they blast the sky, and sometimes the UV comes through. The UVA, UVB, UVC gets intensified. It'll like burn my skin and make my plants look burned, and it's actually burning the conifers here. And we have a crazy tree die-off here. Even the trees along the streams aren't able to absorb water properly because of the aluminum toxicity buildup. But they'll
He
spray.
said aluminum.
Yeah, I'm getting good at that, right? And then people over here are like, what did you say? And I'm like, oh man. So they spray the skies and they'll make it like all of a sudden really wintry because they're blocking so much UV. And then they'll spray the skies and they'll make it like a magnifying glass and intensify it. And the plants get so confused and they go through so many back and forth that they're just like, I guess it's winter, I'm going to go to seed, but it's spring. They're supposed to be going through these processes. So messing with the plants, I think, is still under like experimental phase, but soon I feel like that it's just going to be full on to dismantle the food supply and have like scarcity, food shortages, all like to blame climate change, which is, you know.
Well, they're already talking over here. Chickens are going to be cold. Sheep have all of a sudden got bird flu. So the price of sheep's going up because they're culling sheep again.
I know the I was like I said, I was at the allotment today.
Price of lamb,
the woman I do it with, she's Polish, and her and her family are going to Poland for the school holidays next week. And she said that she's not. She knows what I do, but she's not a conspiracy theorist. And she said, "Oh yeah, it's weird. We're going to Poland next week. This week it's been 14, 15 degrees, and next week it's dropping to 2."
Yeah, right.
Like, that didn't used to happen, did it? It didn't work that way. Where
you could get freak weather, right?
Yeah,
but it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a difference.
Yeah. And it feels different, Fatty. It feels different.
It feels electric, Chris. It feels electric. It feels electric.
The sun's out and it's freezing. And also, and this is something that's happened for a few years now, I've noticed it because I'm not a very good sleeper. At 5 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, it gets really hot. And then it just drops back down to cold again. Even through the winter, Matt. I don't know about where you are, but I can be here and you wake up with a wet brow like it's hot. And then it just drops again. So it's hot for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Between 4 and 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 and a half, 4, 5 o'clock. Then it drops back down and it's cold again. It's really weird. Unless it's me and I'm insane. Could be that.
They're microwaving things too, and that impacts us. And they're definitely playing with a lot of different things.
It's all part of the same thing. I don't know if you will have known the project from the 1940s up to late 80s called Operation Cauldron. Matt, you've heard of that? Where they were spraying zinc oxide or something like that, and all sorts of other stuff into the atmosphere. They were running hundreds of different operations. That is what this is really. That's what this has turned into, isn't it? Apart from it's more now, they're more accurate. They've got it down past testing point. If what I'm trying to say, now it's operational.
Yeah, even the fogs, people, and that's and again, a perfect example of waking people up. The powers that be, like they is the trigger word for some people, so I try not to use it, but it is they, it's them, they're doing it. It's like I can't explain all the they because it's so deep. It's NASA, it's the military, it's above, government. It's a collaboration of all the military industrial complexes. It's really dark and evil, but the they, I got caught up on the day. What am I talking about right now?
Oh, Matt, one thing that I don't think we discussed last time, because I don't think it had happened, was that weird fog, because that was happening.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Everywhere in the world.
It was foggy. Do you know what? It was foggy here yesterday morning.
So
But quickly, Matt, just a quick story. We went to see some friends in Lincolnshire, which is near here, and I'd had a little bit of a sore throat, and on the way back, we were driving down the motorway, and it got foggy, and we drove through the fog, and I'd had a bit of a sore throat and a bit of a bad nose, and my daughter
Nostrils, bad nostrils.
My daughter actually said, "What's that? What's that smell? There's a horrible smell." And me and Missy said as well, "Yeah, I can smell it." And then I said, "It smells like burnt fireworks. It smells like old fireworks, so sulfur." And we got home, and I got sick as a dog. I got a nasal and a sore throat infection, and then I started seeing it from America. People saying about this fog and people showing videos, and we literally just drove straight through a cloud of it, and then it stunk, and then we carried on, and then I got a bloody like a nasal infection, and I think it was that fog. I really do.
Yeah, they're getting better and better at that, and that's what I was saying before I lost my train of thought. Is the fog, as they get better at it, people are waking up because they are experiencing it firsthand. Like we mentioned earlier, people are experiencing the fog, getting sick, and then waking up to it all. Maybe they were on the fence, maybe they weren't at all, but it is a big kick in the face when you start to realize that they are what they are doing. And so what is happening there in that instance is this is so involved, but industry, like the Department of Energy, for instance, the Department of Energy is like not just in the United States, it's worldwide. It's a big conglomeration of dirty energy with the oil companies and the coal companies and what have you. They have power plants all over the world. And these power plants are now in an integrated system where they work with the weather engineering people, the chemtrailers. Okay. So the Department of Energy has a tropospheric aerosol program. It's on my website, actualactivists.com. It's also probably on frankenskies.com. But the tropospheric aerosol program through the Department of Energy, it shows how there's a huge budget and a huge program in the Department of Energy alone for an aerosol spraying campaign. So what they do is they have say nuclear power plants or anything with a smokestack, even like paper mills are involved, which is crazy. And like this makes it a big elaborate conspiracy, but it's a massive conspiracy. It's a worldwide conspiracy to to what ends. It's elaborate, it's controlling all of humanity's like awakening. It's a very spiritual thing. It's also greed oriented, like control of the farmlands and big ag gobbling up things and taking away our sovereignty and our health and all these things. Like it's a massive conspiracy. And just because you can't wrap your head around it doesn't make it not true. So anything with a smokestack. So you've got a power plant, for instance. Nuclear power just has like steam coming off it all the time. But that steam is utilized in their weather engineering program. So they'll have like a bunch of steam coming out, and then they'll add chemicals to it with the aerosols. And then they'll manage it by sharing it around and zapping it and what have you. And then we end up with these fogs. Also, you'll have like smokestack coming from like an industrial plant of some sort. And maybe they're not in on it. Maybe they just have these smokestacks that are supposed to be getting rid of chemicals. But
yeah, that's what I was just going to say. They might not, the people in the factory might not even know that it's part of a bigger plan, because they're told to put these chemicals in because it cleans the smoke that's coming out of the stack. But in reality, it's got a double whammy, because the chemicals they're putting in actually aids the people who are chemtrailing or the people who are using the microwave technology, etc.
Right. So like if you watch like something that has a big smokestack or something like this, you can see these big plumes up above, and then they'll come along and chemtrail those plumes and manage them. Like they probably give them labels like XR297, and they literally follow XR297, know what kind of constituents are in it, zap it to keep the chemicals in there charged a certain way. And then that fog blanket comes over to Lincolnshire.
That was too much.
And what's really funny is making fun of myself when I say the British.
Yeah.
Actually, also very funny. But
Isn't it weird though? All the American names, well, most of the American names, apart from the native Indian ones, most of them came from Britain anyway. Most of the names, like Abraham Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, right, is basically probably named after Lincoln.
And in America, they've got every area is named after somewhere in England. There's a Cambridge in America, isn't there? There's everything over there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
New York.
But everyone sees what I'm saying. So they manage these moisture plumes that have chemicals in them already. Maybe maybe the pulp mill that's treating and making paper, maybe they have toxic chemicals coming out of these smokestacks that have to be 80 feet tall but then they take these things and they get the chemicals and then end up dumping them onto you. It's supposed to be eradicated from the public, but then they manage them. And so what your daughter was probably smelling was something they got from some industrial waste on like who's in on it or not, it doesn't really matter. Like there's so many layers of compartmentalization, you know, like, and people are on a need to know basis and they're only doing it in a certain area, whatever. They don't know the bigger picture and whatnot. And then they think they're doing something good for the world or what have you, but they're utilizing these moisture plumes that come out of these smokestacks in conjunction with the chemtrail program. So not only are they like taking this coal fly ash from the bladders when they clean out the smokestacks of the coal, burning coal, and then they take this nanoparticulate sludge that should be disposed of, and then they refine it and take out the nanoparticulate metals, the mercury, the titanium, the lead, the cadmium, like all these things, lithium, mercury, aluminum, barium, and then they isolate them, charge them a certain way, spray them in the sky, and then actually mix them with other constituents. So you've got activists having to take science into their own hands, and you've even got people that have this fog. They're taking their dehumidifiers and putting them outside, like with an extension cord, and then they're getting water samples by the dehumidifier collects the humid air, and then it has a pool of water. And then with that water sample, they're sending it in, and people are supposedly finding a lot of weird bacterias that are contributing to people's illnesses. Yeah. Definitely in Florida and all over the United States, people are also waking up to the toxic fog. It's not just in the UK.
It was when it was happening here, it was in unison in America. I was seeing videos in America at the same time. Exactly.
But I mean, people like say, if you listen to people, when my son was playing football, listening to the parents saying, "Oh yeah, the Nora virus, blah blah, is going round." What they don't understand is that they're actually getting either irradiated from some sort of technology frequency, or they're getting sprayed. They think it's going round when really people are just getting poisoned. You know, like Chris experienced there, going through a cloud of whatever.
And that's only because I was aware fire. Most folk would have thought anything of it. Oh, there's something happening over here. But like I said, I was seeing videos from America at the exact same time. So it was some kind of program.
I think that's one of the things that's changed. It's happening all over the world at the same time. That's one of the things that's altered over the last, certainly since the last 5 years. The strange weather. I also think they control, like in America, where they can control the twisters and things like that, the tornadoes and the hurricanes. Because they happen there naturally, they can actually make them worse or what have you. They maybe can't invent a tornado yet. They can just make it 10 times worse or make others around it when it's there. Possibly. I'm not saying that's true. Who knows? But anybody who thinks that anybody in power, the real power brokers, like those that sit around the table on Blade, would not try and control the weather, are insane.
Well, people don't have the history and the background. If you look at the patents starting in the 1890s and then you watch the movie Frankenstein, you should already be on board with that little piece of the puzzle, because you can start to look up. And then if the military industrial complex had this very valuable tool, which is engineering the weather, creating flooding in Vietnam, if the U.S. could do it then, you better believe they would. I mean, it takes an idiot to think that they would just shelve that technology, just like the moon landing. Oh, we can't go anymore. We just lost that technology. That's an obvious lie. It's like they keep building on their technology, and then it becomes more top secret, and then they don't, share it with us. That's not what happened at the moon landing necessarily, but with like something that can be weaponized, like the weather, it just becomes more hidden and more secret. It's just like the idea of cloud seeding. I can go on the microfiche and pull up articles where farmers are literally seeding clouds over their properties, over their farms, with the constituents that their plants are deficient in. So they need potassium. They'll seed with potassium and have it raining potassium water on their crops. In the 1960s and 70s, this was common knowledge. Now the farmers are praying for the rain to drop out of the sky because they think there's nothing that can be done. They don't know about the technology or the easy information of cloud seeding because it's been swept under the rug, because it's been weaponized, just like all the other things, like cars that run on water or what have you. And to answer your rhetorical question, yes, they can engineer a cyclone or twister or tornado. They can, and they do, and they engineer hurricanes as well. Bill Gates and Microsoft, they own the patent on stopping and quelling and making a hurricane turn to nothing. They have the patents, and it's just they bought it and they just swept it under the rug, just like how an
It's like the
automotive company.
water car or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like the water car, they'll buy the patent and then they'll make it never come out because they don't want that competition and they want to keep everybody taxed and controlled and what have you.
Just excuse me for a minute, guys. I'm just going to check on my nipper because my missus isn't in at the moment. I'll just be 2 seconds.
I have a website for updates on the upcoming protest in London on summer solstice. I have a website now, Stop Geoengineering London, stopgeoengineeringlondon.co.uk. So, feel free to bookmark that and save that for later. And if there's any updates on, musicians and what have you, and this will turn into an annual event. That's my goal. And also what's really beautiful, Dom, is I didn't really plan this, but obviously like spirit and the universe and everything has a bigger plan for activism and the awakening and what have you, but other people around the world are having simultaneous rallies. So the way that people woke up to Monsanto is starting in 2012, May 25th, 2012, March Against Monsanto was born. And March Against Monsanto was held in 400 simultaneous cities. And it's been every single year since then. So they're going on their 13th year of having a March Against Monsanto every May in 400 cities at the same exact time. And now people know about GMO and about Monsanto and how evil they are and stuff. So that's really cool, right? So similarly, we need an awakening to happen with chemtrails, and we need to hit that 100th monkey and have that like consciousness rise, but we need to be the boots on the ground and be the actual activists that the world deserves, right? And the truth needs us. So I'm having this protest, this gathering in London on summer solstice in Hyde Park, but it's going to become an annual event on every summer solstice. But also people are jumping on the opportunity and having their own simultaneous rally. So now I know there's one happening and getting put together in St. Louis, Missouri, and in Canada, but people are reaching out and saying, why don't you come to Australia? Why don't you come here? And I'm like, you don't need me there. You don't need me there to hold a few signs on the street corner. Like, let's just start it and have an annual thing, and it'll grow and build momentum as we give it like the energy and love that it deserves. So I think that's really beautiful. So if you live anywhere in the world, not the UK, if you live in the UK, come to London. None of that bullshit. I don't want to travel. It's a small country. It literally is like, it's beautiful that everyone
not to us. Going to London seems miles away.
Come on down, it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I say, and then but into the future we can start having events everywhere. People have been contacting me a lot saying come to where's the south coast? What's the beautiful south coast in England?
Cornwall.
Come to Cornwall. So eventually I want to come to Cornwall. I've had some film screenings happen for Frankenstein down there recently, but I want to go down there and do rallies and even speaking events and what have you, and make it into like a tour type thing. But for now, it's important for us to come together at a central location and show the world that we're not crazy and that we're not alone, and to find our tribe and our people. And I'll come up with some creative sort of like
I just think it's important for all these type of events that people get together and even just to meet other people, just to talk, because a lot of us are alone in jobs and things like that, or even within our own family units. I'm fortunate, if it's fortunate's a thing, to have Chris where I can talk to him. My missus, obviously, she's into all this as well. Even my kids. So some people are on their own out there, and it's a stressful thing when you think like we do, especially within the matrix. If you've got to work within the matrix. But just one thing, Matt. You've obviously got presentations that you've presented on these subjects. I think it'd be a good one to do on a live stream like this, to do one of your presentations as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to. I've started giving presentations recently. I've got a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
The past two presentations I've done, I did one in Colorado for it was a Trump type group.
Right.
They call it MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, under the RFK. But
we'll talk about RFK in a minute.
Yeah, I'm just ignoring all that and just giving the information.
Yeah.
And I presented to them, and I presented to a group in Wales. And I just break down the who, what, why, where, when, how. It's like an hour-long presentation. And it's like, as an activist, you want to know all these answers so you can share the information with your friends, your family, your peers. And the who, what, why, where, when, how on chemtrails is pretty poignant. And I also have a great presentation that's like a couple hours, and I can do, and that would be great as well. But just the basics, like just hammering out the basics
We'll do both, man.
Is pretty great.
Okay.
I wanted to say one thing to Christian.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
No, I say we'll do both. We'll do the general one first, and then we'll do the other one at some other date. Possibly just before you come out in the summer. That might be a good one.
Yeah,
a good time.
That would be all great. Now that I figure out how to share my screen.
No, all you have to do is there's two things you can do. You can send me the PowerPoint, so I can put it up there and flick through the pages as you want to go, or I can give you access and you can do it from the back end here.
Cool.
So you better control it. Yeah.
That'd be both great. I already have a presentation put together, so it'd be easy enough. I want to say something empowering and uplifting. So there's a group out of England that's just got formed, and they're like Clear Skies England, and they're trying to stop the chemtrails as well. And I was speaking to some of them about the fog, and this one woman was like, "What do I do?" Like, I pulled up my car and I sat in it for hours because I didn't want to get out in the fog, and I was like scared. And once you start to wake up, it is a big kick in the face because you see all these satanic elitists trying to like turn your children into robots. And you're like, what the F is this? You know, it's scary at first. It's daunting. But then when you realize that you are a spiritual being and your sovereignty is what they're afraid of, and they pull out all the stops from the light bulbs to the fluoride to the air we breathe, the food that we eat, they're trying to quell our spirituality, and that they're really afraid of us. It becomes pretty inspiring and empowering. And one thing that we can do, which is very important, is a lot of us are very mineral deficient. They don't put the minerals in the soil anymore. Like, they could, it'd be expensive, but it's like they're not sprinkling gold and silver, palladium and platinum on our silver. Like, there's trace minerals that we need on a daily basis. And the trace mineral list that we need is like 120 minerals. One of those minerals is aluminum, believe it or not. And our bodies need trace levels of these different minerals: aluminum, magnesium, boron, like all these sort of things. One of the minerals that we need on a daily basis is einsteinium. One's gold, one's silver. These things are not in our soil. They're not in our food. We don't get them. So we are mineral deficient, all of us. And then we drink some cappuccino, and it, maybe strips our body of some more minerals, whatever. But we're like sponges walking around because our bodies are trying to get the minerals that we need. 120 of them on a daily basis. And we probably get like a dozen even if we're eating healthy, right? And so we go out into this fog, and our bodies are like, ooh, I'm going to absorb whatever is in this, because the radioactive cadmium, the shite seems like, because it's like on heavy metals and stuff, and our bodies want these certain things, our bodies are absorbing shite, expecting it to be something good because we're deficient. We need the calcium in our bones, and we need the magnesium in our bones.
By the way, everybody, Matt's not doing an advert for my company, Health Bunker. But we do sell a lot of these vitamins. Minerals.
It's important. And I think it's important to get bioavailable supplements, bioavailable.
The one thing I would say is, as well, Matt, is that not only, obviously it's been done for a reason. So, like you said, so when you go into this fog, or when you walk past, or your Wi-Fi's on, or whatever, that you're absorbing stuff that you shouldn't be, and you've got no protection. It's basically a bit like they've covered the moat up and around the castle. They've lifted the portcullis. That's your immune system, and they've allowed all the people that you want outside the castle gates into your body to run amok.
Yeah, your phone is emitting EMF radiation, which breaks down the blood-brain barrier in your brain, which opens you up to becoming an even more absorptive sponge. The phone is also, the EMF radiation is breaking down your immune system and what have you. It's like there's so many things. It's like so multi-tiered. And then to not become the sponge that we all are, we can take these different supplements, like a CMOS supplement that is plant-based. I like to take the CMOS bladderwrack burdock. It's 3 things mixed together: 2 seaweeds, and then burdock, which is like a blood cleansing root. And those 3 things together have all the minerals that you need, the iron and all this trace plant-based minerals. And then if you're up to speed on your minerals, you're not going to be the sponge that everyone else is. And maybe, Christian, if you were like super up to speed on your minerals, which is hard to be, and I'm not blaming you, but if you were super like healthy, maybe you wouldn't have gotten sick from that fog. maybe your body would have just been like, what's it called? Terrain. Like your terrain would have been like, ha ha ha, I don't care. You know.
Well, my daughter and Mrs. were all right. It's just me.
Right. So that red wine.
Maybe. But before we went, like I said, I had a bit of I was a little bit ill, and then when I came back, and that's when I caught it.
I tell you what, Matt. Right? He doesn't need you giving him grief, because I give him grief every fucking day about health stuff, don't I, Chris? No, I don't I? You tell me to shut up, don't you?
Yeah, of course I do.
He says, "I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going." That's his exact words to me, isn't it? Before you start.
Yeah, it bores the fuck out of me.
Yeah, have I ever told you, Matt, that we own a natural health clinic? Me and my wife.
I love it. Tell me more.
Yeah, we use ozone therapies. So me and my wife had Lyme disease, and we use ozone therapies. We've got a couple of nurses that work for us giving ozone IVs. We've got equipment that gives an ozone IV. So basically, the line goes in your arm, and it draws 150 mils of blood out, and it gets ozonated with ozone gas, mixed with ozone gas, and then put back in.
Wow.
You don't feel a thing, and you do it 10 times. It's called 10 pass, ozone 10 pass.
You just reminded me, actually, Matt, I got a bottle of wine.
Yeah. Totally ignores us, yeah. But yeah, well, anyway, I'll send you a video just to have a watch of what the treatment is. You can there's loads of them in America. If ever you make it up this way, you'll have to come for a treatment.
That'd be so amazing. How do people find out more? Is it on your website?
Oh yeah. I've got. It's not just about my website. There's people up and down the country doing these treatments. It's more getting access to going to somewhere where you can get the treatment. It basically detoxifies the blood, which obviously detoxifies the body. I mean, ozone. Everyone's been scared off. It's another thing that people have been scared off with. It produces in your body when it goes into your body. It becomes from an oxidant, which ozone is if you breathe it in. Once it enters the bloodstream, or it put in water, or it goes into, say, the colonic area, it becomes an antioxidant straight away, and it produces hydrogen peroxide, which is what your body produces from your immune system. So that's what the beauty of ozone is.
Someone put in comments there, Dom, Chris is doing a Vino 10 pass out.
That's Jacko. Crab claws.
Crab claws.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. So what we're going to say now, RFK. 4 years ago, me and Chris did a podcast. One of our first podcasts we did, and I did a bit of a presentation on RFK that basically said, don't put all your eggs in the RFK basket, because one, his family bloodline and the name Kennedy, we all know the headshot and all that type of thing. It means basically having your head cut off or what have you. But also his whole family, or him anyway, he was a drug addict, alcoholic, in and out of the same institutions that were conducting MK Ultra propaganda. And he's now been put out as this kind of hero to worship over the last 6 or 7 years from nowhere, really. Where did he come from to be this hero of jib jabs? We won't say the V word, but jib jabs in your country. Because he believes in global climate warming change. He's not anti-global climate warming change. He's not. He backs up the Israelis into flattening basically a prison, an occupied prison. He doesn't say anything. I think he was put there to head people off into a cul-de-sac that the jib jabs caused autism, only the jib jabs. And I think there's a bigger picture behind that syndrome, if you like, other than just jib jabs. I'm not saying that people having a jab and the kid falling off the side, it doesn't happen, because I've seen that. I've seen people whose kids have done that, so I know that happens. But I think he was there to drag people, the conversation down that route, so they could prove it wrong and say, no, this has always been here.
Is that a question?
Well, I don't know. Fuck knows, man.
Well, going along with what Matt said,
more of a rant.
I think going along with what Matt said earlier about the Trinity, all these three in this Trinity were all getting lined up over the last 10 years, weren't they? Including, Trump with wrestling and The Apprentice, all getting lined up right for this moment in time where the Trinities come together, isn't it? Including RFK and Musk. In my opinion, anyway.
No, Dom, you're absolutely right. And I just want to say really quick, just in case I might lose the thought. We live in a very weird, upside down, backwards,
Oh,
cruel
you
world,
noticed?
right?
Yeah.
Right? If Christian wants to drink 3 bottles of wine during a 1 hour show, then God bless them. You know what I mean? We all have our vices, and whatever keeps you sane in this world, as long as you're not harming others. And we can make fun of them.
Chris harms me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun to take the piss, but also I'm not any sort of Luddite. People out there, I'll be like, but Matt, I love my coffee. Then drink the coffee. You know what I mean? Enjoy it, enjoy your life. Do what makes you happy, but also take into consideration the truth about health and all these other things, right? Regarding RFK, because I'm no saint, you know what I mean? I'm no saint, I'm not at all. And I'm I try to value certain health things, whatever. But I talk about CMOS, but I don't take the CMOS every single day. I don't go to the gym every single day. And there's things that I do to keep myself sane. That whatever. It's just do you. I'm not lecturing anybody about their trip to the pub and their social time and whatnot. RFK was a Democrat. He was on the left. He was a liberal. He was never a Republican, for one. Okay, so he's a politician saying what needs to be said. All right. So so I know you all have a little bit of different, the Labor Party and this and that, but I still believe it's just left and right, essentially. In the U.S., it's very polarized, and all of a sudden, when I was growing up, it meant something different. Being a liberal meant that you were an environmentalist and that you were anti-guns. And now it's become so upside down and backwards that there's no way that an actual truther could pick one side of the fence, because both are compromised. But what happened was, in the political system, is the hijacking is how can we pull this new world order without the public coming together, unifying under the umbrella of truth, and literally rolling out the guillotines and whatnot, because they want to keep themselves in power and not have too much backlash when they roll out the beast system and all this nonsense that they're doing all at once, lockdowns and whatever, all of it. So, and I do think that more lockdowns are coming. I've seen people engaging with these new AIs, and I've got semi friends that had AI therapists, and people are engaging with the new Thoth and Chat GPT on steroids and all these things. And during the lockdowns, so many people were just lonely as shit. And they were just I got nothing, I got nobody. The next round of lockdowns, people are going to fall in love with this AI, man. And they're going to be, once they get let out of the cage, they're going to be I've got my AI girlfriend over here. What do you want? I don't need to go anywhere ever again.
Total Recall.
Yeah. The new Blade Runner has an AI girlfriend.
Do you know do you know? I really enjoyed that film, except for that bit, Matt. I thought that bit just destroyed it, because that was the real programming in that film, was that AI.
Yeah, that whole movie was built around that programming.
Yeah.
You can have a sweet AI girlfriend, and she's but I can't leave the house. And he's I'll make it so you can leave the house, baby. Yeah. And it's just
it ruined
you feel bad for her. You feel bad
I mean, do you remember at the time, Dom, it had the weather thing in it? Because at the time you were having the fires in America, and Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner came out, and it had the red sky. And that wasn't from the first film, but it was used in that film. And it was just when you were having the forest fires in America. Because I remember there was a picture in the news of a bridge I think it was in New York, where the fires had changed the sky color there. And it just looked like a scene out of the new Blade Runner at the exact same time the film came out. And then, you won't have seen it, Don, but in the second Blade Runner film, the first one's one of my favorites. He has an AI girlfriend. And like Matt said, he can't go out of the house with her, and he's going to find a way to and stuff. And it just stunk of an agenda, and it ruined the film for me. Even though I like the film, except for that bit, it just destroyed it. Sorry, Matt.
It was too much. So here's what happened. The right, no, pardon me. I grew up in DC area, and I still can't get this shit right. The left was Democrats, and they were completely compromised. If you're left, you're passive, you're a virtue signaler, you're gonna do anything the government tells you to do. You're on board with this whole trans thing, and you support Biden, who's an obvious child sniffing, brain dead. They made Biden into such a moron on purpose, just to have very passive like left. So they've been completely compromised. They're not going to revolt. They're not going to gather together. They're only worried about like giving the children rights to cut off their freaking like private parts when they're 7 years old. It's insanity. So everybody's going to flock to the right. So then, of course, everyone votes for Trump, and then even RFK comes onto the Trump side, which never would have happened. We would have imagined, right? And then RFK makes all these promises while he's running for office, just like a politician would. I'm going to remove the fluoride from all the drink. I'm going to stop the chemtrails, like all these things that everyone would be like, oh, yay, he's going to do what everyone wants the politicians to do. They're finally going to do it. They're going to drain the swamp. They're going to do all these things. Nothing like that has happened or will happen, but they tell you these things to keep you passive.
Do you know what they reminded me of, Matt? They reminded me, those three people, of the best sales team in the world.
Oh, yeah.
That is what they reminded me of.
Because everyone somewhere can identify with one of them.
Yes.
Like people are like, oh, I hate Trump, but I love Musk. Oh, I hate Musk, but I love RFK. Oh, I don't know about RFK, but Trump is, you saw the stigmata on, he's Jesus Christ. Right? It's like, wow. Like no matter what, there's someone that the people can identify. Even my truther friends, they're like, yeah, I'm not a Trumper, but Elon Musk is really doing some good for the world. Like Doge, you see what he's doing with Doge? It's just like, yo, give me a break. Like, come on. And people love RFK. Now, how can people still not see him for what he's worth? Because right when he came into office, there's the best meme. It's like the pawn shop meme. And it's like, you thought you were going to get cheap food and cheap gas prices, but all you get is anti-Semitism laws. That's what he did first thing he comes in. Like we're like, make America healthy again, drop the food prices, yeah, no more inflation. And he comes out, and the Make America Healthy guy, he comes out with a legislation on anti-Semitism, and nobody blinks. I'm like, are you serious? That's what you're gonna do? And then the mRNA, of course.
Yeah.
All of that. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get specialized AI, and the AI is gonna know you so well that it's going to be able to diagnose you and give you a specialized, individualized jippy jab. You're welcome.
In 48 hours.
Oh,
yeah, right. 48 hours.
From 10 years to 1 year to 48 hours.
So that's giving AI. This is like a dive into all the dystopian movies that are already like made and
on crack.
Yeah, it's like on crack because you're giving the AI so much power. It can now look at a human and analyze them up and down and know exactly what. And then, like literally, we were told that maybe aliens would show up and give us like a cure for XYZ. And then
what was that film, Chris? That cartoon where that robot were basically a medic and it could analyze you. It was like in Tokyo Frisco. It's like part Japanese and part American. San Fran Tokyo or something like that. What are it called now?
Oh,
kids film, wasn't it?
Big number 8, Big 8, is it? Is it Big 8 with that big
Big Hero 6? Big Hero 6.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one. Big Hero 6.
That's some serious shit in it. That didn't matter. I don't know if you saw it. I mean, I saw it because I've got a youngster, but they basically made a medic robot, and this kid became friends with this medic robot. Yeah, and it could and analyze.
He designed it, didn't he? He designed it.
His brother. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I was going to say his brother, but it was him. Good film that. Well, good. It's a good animation, but it's got so much stuff.
But it messed with it. It had the black hole and the dimension where he had to go in and rescue this robot
portal. It had a portal. In it, like everything's got in it.
This is a kids' film, man. This is not. And this
nanobots in it, didn't it?
Nanobots. It had nanobots in it.
Yeah.
That's what the mRNA basically is. I mean, that's it is.
I mean,
I might have to watch that again.
I
might have to watch Big Hero 6 again because that had some serious shit in it. Did that? And it was called San Fran Tokyo. The town was called San Fran Tokyo.
Yeah, and he didn't explain why, but everyone there was obviously
part American, part Japanese. It was a strange thing.
I actually, because I think we just started doing podcast time, I took a load of notes down when I was watching it. I rewatched it, took a load of notes down at the time. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Big Hero
and that's getting children emotionally involved with their love for the robots. I was talking to some guys in the sauna. We were actually thinking we should have a sauna talk radio because these random dudes come together in the sauna and we have the most involved conversations about the world. And it's just like, we don't even know each other. It's pretty cool. I'm at my local gym, and this conversation the other day, there was a teacher, an instructor. He's like, middle school teacher. I don't know if you guys have middle schools. We have schools over here for 7th and 8th grade. And he said that the generation that was under lockdown as children, it was like 3 years of like propaganda and screen and like no interaction with humans and stuff. He says that these children have real world, like adult problems, never seen before. These children are coming into middle school with adult problems, and he's never even witnessed it. So you got 7th graders, pregnant, drug addicts going to jail, all with like adult level problems that
what
they've
have
never
these
seen
sadistic
before.
bastards done? What have these sadistic
Right.
bastards done?
So they have like a bullseye on a certain generation. And as that generation gets older, they're going to go through another stage of lockdowns. They're going to love their lines in the sky. They're going to actually be praising the lines in the sky because those things are going to be glorified as our savior because of our carbon emissions, because we've done so much. We've been such baddies, right? And then ultimately we're going to have these med bots that, like, when you start giving that much power to the AI, and they can like analyze us and look at us in that way, and then it's in all the cameras everywhere. It's like definition technocracy dystopia, where you have to wake up in the morning and take pills that the program.
Well, it'd be a.
Is that Gattaca? Is that Gattaca?
Yeah,
Have you seen that one?
Yeah, it'll be a more futuristic version of Pilates. What is it? Nasal swab, won't it? Basically, because it can diagnose you wherever the fuck it wants, and then make you take whatever it wants you to take, if you believe it. It will, won't it? Then you need to take this. Okay, all right.
Yeah. And eventually they'll just send the drone to your house with the jibby jab. It's like, oh, we got it for you, ready. Is this?
I don't want to take it. Too late. Can't abort.
Are you saying Big Hero 6?
Big Hero 6, yes.
Yeah. I love the accents over there, because y'all just slur everything together. Big Hero 6.
It's just
Big Hero.
That's the Northern Yorkshire accent. Is that? And people in Lancashire are the same as well.
When I first moved to London, I used to work working in a restaurant, and the kitchen porter was Sicilian. And after about 6 months, he came up to me. Obviously, I was new there, so I'd say to people, "Are you going out tonight?" And he came up to me and goes, "Chris, what do you mean when you say you going out tonight?" I thought it was one word.
Yeah, right.
I said, no, it means, are you going out tonight? What is this word? You're going out tonight.
There's just no gaps in our words, that's all.
Yeah, I think I told you guys when I went to Scotland, the further north I got, the more.
Oh, yeah. We don't understand Scottish.
No, have you been to Newcastle yet?
No, but I'm watching mannerisms. Like if they're mad, you can tell. If they're happy, you can tell. But the words,
I think in Glasgow, you don't know if they're happy or mad though.
No, they're usually angry, because you can hear cunt like every
fuck off. That's normally just a happy sort of like chappy in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Yeah.
Fuck off.
That sounded Irish, that fire.
Yeah. When do you know the video playing earlier, Don Easterbrook? That was a few years ago, weren't it? I mean, you'll have seen all that stuff, no doubt. Anyway, but he was saying things that we could only dream of saying in a Senate commission. How was he placed in that position to give that information out there at that particular point? Let alone the stupid questions he were getting asked by that guy called, I think he was called Anchor, or whatever he was called, Wanker. Yeah.
It seems like that there's disclosure mechanisms. It seems like that there has to be like, they have to let us know kind of
pressure
things.
point, if you like, let the steam out.
Yeah, exactly. It's through controlled opposition. It's through controlled media, like Hollywood and all that sort of stuff. And even in the news, like they will like tell you the truth, which is, it's actually quite fascinating. Like I remember during 9/11, I was watching it live, and they were like, yeah, fighter jets had to go shoot down that plane. They said it. They said it live on the news, that the planes in Pennsylvania that like doesn't look like a plane or anything like that. They said live, we have to go take that plane down right now. So they told everyone on live TV the truth, right? I can't think of like great examples of they have to tell us, but they do. They have to tell us everything, just right there.
A bit like, was it Rudy Giuliani said, I had to pull the building, told him to pull the building.
No, it
Building
weren't. It
7,
weren't him. It was
Building
that other
7,
guy.
wasn't it?
It were who was it? What was his name? That little rat-looking guy.
Yeah, not Giuliani, the guy that owned the buildings.
Silverstein.
Yeah,
Silverstein,
Silverstein, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what religious background he was.
Do you know
but-
something I always remember from?
Right.
I always remember from 9/11, and I never saw it again. I think it might have been at the time when it happened, and it was a guy saying, it might have been when the conspiracy started. He said he went into the basement and he opened a cupboard and there was a dead body in it. Just before it started to all go. I always remember that, and I never saw it again. He said it was weird.
Funnily enough, Chris,
I had this. I had something happened, whatever. And he said he went downstairs, and I said I opened this cupboard and there was a body in it. And I always remember it and think, what the fuck was that? I never heard it again. Never heard it. I never saw it again. Never saw
maybe
the
that body
footage
saw
again.
too much, Chris. And
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I always remember it. And that was before I was fully over the fence, in the conspiratorial world, if you like. I just remember that bit and just thinking, what the hell does that mean?
Just to, I've got a couple of videos actually we'll play before we leg it. I've got one on solar engineering, Matt. I don't know if you've seen this already. Shall I play it?
Please.
The record number of fires burning across Brazil's Amazon rainforest has prompted renewed global outcry over climate change. And big spending. $5 million from Leonardo DiCaprio, £10 million from the UK. Meanwhile, Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial.
How long will it be that countries keep experiencing these climate impacts before someone gets desperate and says, hey, we need to cool the planet with solar geoengineering?
It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface. It would mimic a giant volcanic eruption, which we know cools the Earth. Back in 1991, Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines. It was the largest eruption to affect a densely populated area, creating avalanches and giant mud flows that left more than 700 dead and 30,000 homeless. It also spewed a cloud of 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide particles into the stratosphere. That chemical cloud was hundreds of miles across and reflected about 2% of sunlight back to space. And in 1992, the Earth was cooler than in 1991.
That is part of the mechanism, but you do this in a controlled way.
Modeling studies have found that it could reduce the intensity of heat waves, for instance. Apparently it could reduce the rate of sea level rise. It could reduce the intensity of tropical storms.
But it also comes with significant risks and uncertainties.
Things like mass famine, mass flooding, drought, of kinds that will affect very large populations.
It could weaken monsoons in India, China, and Africa enough to affect crops.
I love it when they show those blown palm trees. It's always, there's
and
obviously
the ice floating around.
ice floating around. It's obviously global warming if there's fucking palm trees whipping around in the wind.
Oh, and that zebra and that zebra walking over that.
What else could it be?
Yeah.
A guy walking with some water. There's definitely global warming. That never happened before.
But that's
Zebra. That's a cool one. I like that.
the zebra. Yeah, that's that's on mainstream TV, and they're telling you again, going back to what you were just saying.
That's the one I saw. In fact, that's what that's one of the ones I was talking about. Actually, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
you might have sent me that,
yeah.
did you?
I might have done. Yeah,
I think-
I might have done.
They crank out these propaganda videos. They've been doing it for over a decade now. Like, oh, we've got this genius idea, and they twist it. They make different little videos for different demographics. So nature.com and then PBS, and then they'll hit everyone with different, aspects of it. They say this is something that we could maybe do, but then you can go get a degree in it. And like you can go, oh, have I showed you sunsets.com? Have we done this yet?
No.
Makesunsets.com. If you don't mind, Dom, would you mind going to makesunsets.com and then pull it up and we can make a joke about this?
Yeah.
Like this is ongoing.
You carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's ongoing propaganda machines every which way. Go ahead.
I was thinking when that thing was playing, is that where they got the idea from the volcano? Because that was back in the 90s. You almost, I thought, did they get the idea from the blanket of cloud?
They claim they want people to think we got this idea because the the volcanoes do it too. So we're just like nature. And that's how they walk you through it. They're like, well, we might do exactly what nature did, which is sulfur dioxide, the sulfur, but it's going to make acid rain and kill people. So maybe aluminum is better, but we're testing out doing space mirrors and diamond dust and salt and table salt was one. And they throw all these different ideas of things that they know won't work, all kind of leading you down the trail to accepting and glorifying and praying for the aluminum in the
and all you think when you watch these so-called educated knobheads talking is just fucking leave it alone, man. Leave everything alone, you psychos.
Yeah, it's unreal. So check this out. This is supposedly like a nonprofit that has come up to save us. So if you click on Act Now, okay.
How can you not believe him? How can you not believe him when he's got a hipster mohawk?
So you can go and cool the earth yourself right here, right now. So people don't think this is going on yet. But
Cooling
here,
credits.
you can literally, because there's a technocracy coming where how much carbon you use is going to be tallied up. And if you're doing good things for the world, they'll give you cooling credits, because you didn't fly this year or whatever. And if you're a baddie and you ate a banana, then they'll ding you points, because that's the world. Right?
Cooling credit subscription.
So already you can go and donate, or no, you pay 23 quid and they will launch a balloon up in the sky and dump some sort of chemical up there. And like people don't even know what's being dumped into their atmosphere, and they're just buying it because the propaganda is so heavy that they are being told that they're doing something good for the world. So imagine people are, I'm trying to scroll down, it's on your screen. Imagine that people are coming here clicking and they get a balloon full of poison released in the atmosphere. If you dig and dig and dig, I think they say, yeah, we use maybe sulfur, we use this and that, but they won't exactly even say what you're adding to the atmosphere. You're just blocking the sun out a little bit. You're making a more colorful sunset. So they've marketed it as makesunsets.com, and you can play your part. And you can help us. So like if you're helping and then you learn, they're spraying it from the chemtrails, you'd be like, oh, good. Do I owe you money too? Like, yay. This is
I noticed there, Matt, when you were scrolling down, biodegradable.
It's me that's scrolling down, Chris.
Biodegradable latex balloons.
Yeah.
So they buy you.
Does it say what chemical? Can you see? Does it say?
It says sulfur dioxide.
Hydrogen gas. And
hydrogen gas, yes. Yeah.
So they're going to dump this chemical in the sky that's been proven to do what? To block your sun, and you can maybe mimic a volcano if you pay enough. How is this legal? Has this been? So they say they're in the experimentation phase of geoengineering. Like that's what David Keith and Harvard and Bill Gates will say, and the governments will say, we're just in experimental phase. So when did this become legal? Like show me how this became legal to all of a sudden I can just pay some money for a balloon to release shite above my town. What does it do? What are the ramifications? Like, has this been like, what does it do to the neighboring town? What does it do to the rainfall of my city, of my neighbors, of the countries upstream, downstream?
What happens when it gets some other chemicals mixed to it? I mean, is this part of a formula that needs several of these experiments or whatever going up into the atmosphere?
And also,
a microwave technology hitting it and it does something else? Sorry, Chris.
No, we're going to say, and also they're getting us to do it to ourselves. Release reflective cloud, 20 kilometers, 66,000 feet.
Does it say that?
Yeah, it does say, 20 kilometers, 66,000 feet.
Fuck hell, man.
So that's just perfect. That couldn't do any harm. And so talk about
66,000 feet. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Talk about garnering consent. This is garnering consent to the 9th degree, because you're literally saying yes.
Paying for your own demise. I almost feel like going into the street and banging some pots and fucking pans at this moment in time.
You know what I mean?
To celebrate the cooling credit.
But that's the same sort of nonsense answer that Bill Gates got about his private jet use. What were those atmospheric credits or something like that?
Eco-fuel, wasn't it?
Eco-fuel or something he uses. Why don't big aeroplanes use eco-fuel then?
That's the whole thing. The flight, the demonizing the millionaires for flying their jets is actually kind of a propaganda tool, because what they're doing is they're saying that flying planes around is adding to the carbon or whatever. It's like making global warming or climate change bad, which is not true at all. Like the actual passenger jets aren't doing shite. They're not doing anything. So to be like, oh, the billionaires shouldn't fly their jets too. Like, I don't really like that narrative necessarily.
But
because
his
what they're
point,
trying.
sorry, Matt, his point was that he's doing so much good when he's flying. It doesn't really matter how much.
Yeah, because his jet's pissing out.
Right.
Goodness. Yeah.
Because when he gets there, he's solving so many problems. That his plane flight is totally justified.
Like jibby jabbing poor African kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what that narrative does is it makes people feel like flying is a problem, and so then when our ability to fly is taken away, we'll be like, oh, it's okay because we're saving the world. Whereas flying passenger jets around isn't doing anything. They're spraying the sky with metals. They're zapping the sky, heating the sky to near the temperature of the sun. They're making all these extreme events, cyclones. They're flooding Australia last week with like a year's worth of rain in a day, and then they point the finger at carbon and planes and cars and us. It's not us. Oh, they've launched 147 balloons. That's it. Well, we should probably chip in right now. If everybody watching right now got a balloon, we could double how many balloons they put up.
This is fucking clown world, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
and they're actually playing with balloons as well, so that makes it even more clown world.
I think they should colour them. We want to blue,
make them into dogs and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. No, it's really real. It's really something, and it's all a distraction from what's really going on. And there are high-tech balloons releasing aluminum into the sky. There's a company out of Tucson that I went and protested when Bill Gates was hiring them. Worldview Enterprises. And Worldview Enterprises, their goal is to have these balloons connected with like wire in the sky. So they're all like this web of balloons in the sky. And then they have canisters where they release payloads that last months. I wonder if Worldview Enterprises, I wonder if they have a website. I'm going to look right now.
I don't think Help Us Cool Earth is diverse enough. I mean, I can see one Asian guy and one white guy.
But I mean, these are I mean, I don't know the investment companies, but they've been backed by serious investment. You know, they haven't just come up with this idea. This has actually gone to a VC, a venture capitalist panel, and they've got funding for it.
Wow, yeah.
There you go. Make Sunsets is backed by Boost VC, so Boost Venture Capitalists, Draper Associates, and Pioneer Fund. I mean, I don't know Boost VC. I'm just tapping on that straight away. But these people will be major players. They'll have had some serious investment and a lot of tax reduction for the investors. I would have thought. I mean, I don't understand American investment, but there will be some serious tax benefits for people who invest in this company. I would start.
Oh yeah, the incentivization of green is it's absolute asinine and backwards. They've got there's actually people in China that will build a coal burning power plant just to take it down to get the carbon credits. Like that's how much that they're paying off people to get involved in the green scam. So I think worldwide it's absolute bollocks. Yeah. Oh, who else do they have there? Climate Outlaws, Make Sunsets Monthly. Oh yeah, how sweet. Experimental Records. Yeah, there's the other company that I looked up, Worldview Enterprises. They have much more high-tech balloons, and they seem to be like monitoring people with cameras and managing the stratosphere. But they have these
Worldview what?
Enterprises. It's Worldview Enterprises. No, the website is actually worldview.space. Interesting.
Right.
But this is a very complex company with funding from Bill Gates, and they're watching us with cameras, but also deploying with these high-tech balloons that look like actual satellites. Look at that. remote sensing. They're deploying also canisters.
Can I just show you a cloud that I took a picture of several years ago, right? Just let me see if it comes up.
You can see what they're doing there, though, Matt. Can't you? You've got the big business doing it, and then you've got them two Scenester guys doing it with his mohawk and an Asian guy.
I'll show you after.
They're doing like the tin pot version,
the cheaper one. Yeah.
Where everyone can invest in this, not just Bill Gates. Not just these big companies. You can also fly a balloon into the fucking stratosphere to save the planet.
What's this?
Like a Zoid.
I don't think it'll play through here.
And
can
then
you hear
Dom,
that?
it normalizes it, Dom.
Right.
I can't hear anything.
No. Anyway.
It normalizes it, Christian, and then when people see it in the sky, they don't know which one it is. Is it that little cute little one that I funded, or is it Bill Gates?
That giant flying Johnny. Yeah.
I found it interesting. If you scroll down a little bit, is this the timeline? I saw a sky that was obliterated by chemtrails in this, but maybe this is something else. But yeah, they have 120 plus stratospheric flight operations. But this was the big protest in Tucson, Arizona when I did it. Bill Gates was hiring this company to deploy canisters of pressurized aluminum oxide over.
They've dropped
Arizona.
4,700 kilograms and 10,000 kilogram payloads. So I presume that's per flight.
They said that?
Well, it says more than 120 completed stratospheric flight operations, including flights with 4,700 kilos and 10,000 kilo payloads.
Oh,
so they're admitting the spraying there.
Yeah, it says there. Look.
Yeah. Those are those payloads are compressed aerosolized canisters of aluminum, and they sit in the sky for even a month or two at a time, just releasing this gas slowly. So I think this is the new advanced version of chemtrails. So sometimes people are like, I didn't even see any planes in the sky, but I've got this haze going on.
Yeah,
it's because there's balloons that are not within your visual sight. You can't see them. But
I would say that's what I saw a bit of today, actually, if I'm honest.
But listen to this. Vetted and trusted operator. Select current and past customers include NASA, NOAA, US Department of Defense, US Air Force, Sierra Nevada Corporation, and many others.
All the most trusted, vetted operators,
Yeah.
NASA.
That seems to be what people do, what they do to keep themselves from getting in trouble. They'll have a private company that then they fund, and they have them do their evil bidding to keep like the paper trail from going directly back to them. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, is that our tax dollars? I can't tell. It's like the U.S. Air Force hired them to do it, but is this, it's like, it makes it harder to dig. And people, like the general person, does not have the capacity to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. These conspiracies become so vast. It's like the Elon Musk thing. He's on his 14th child. He's having children with Neuralink executives. These babies are going to become poster children for the transhumanism revolution. But people are just like, oh no, he's rich. He likes to get around. It's like, no, he doesn't like to get around. He had children with Grimes, and they literally named the child Aeon, Archangel number 12 or whatever. Like, these children will become transhumanized.
Yeah. Look how many board members what does it actually do? It's sending fucking balloons up.
Right? Yeah. Why do you need all these people to send up balloons? It's way more advanced.
I don't know the background of some of these.
Mike
people,
Krause looks like a lizard.
Yeah, they all look like lizards. They do. Yeah,
Roger Stew looks compromised.
Yeah, I would say a lot of these, at least one of these people will have some kind of military background. They're mission operations anyway. Yeah.
Thanks for looking at all that for me. I appreciate that, guys. It's all part of the puzzle. And what's wild is even being in my shoes, I still see things every day that are new. Like, it's wild how much.
The world, their logo looked a little bit Signature, didn't it? I would say.
It did actually, Chris. You're right. Yeah.
Look at the. I tell you what I noticed, Matt. When I forgot to tell you guys this, when I was doing the drawing for the show tonight, the bottom of the I drew a cell tower, and the bottom of it looked like a signet to me. The way it was X'd, if you know what I mean, a little pyramid. Have you got our thingy up here, Fi? The drawing.
I have.
I might be able to see it. I didn't really draw it. I just noticed it. Oh, it's over there on the my right side of the screen. You see at the bottom
where the tower is.
Where the tower is. You see where the
Let me get rid of the chat. Hang on a minute.
I didn't really emphasize it, but if you look there on the bottom right, it looks like a signet to me. You can see just below that circle, and also on the circles, and this was actually on there. Those little zigzag, those little lightning bolts were actually on the cell tower that I drew because I copied it from a picture that I googled. They actually had the satanic lightning bolts on the dishes there, and then if you look below that lower dish, there's a little thing there, and it looked like a signet that I recognize, a satanic signet that I recognize. I don't know what it is, but and then it's got the light. Like I said,
I mean, let's just say you've got a satanic symbol on it, something that emits a signal through it. I mean, what on earth? What on earth is that doing?
And then the two lightning bolts as well, fire, which I mean, literally is the lightning bolt of Lucifer. I suppose they were actually on it. I didn't make them up. It had the the David Bowie level lightning bolt.
Have you
one on each one of those?
I know this is random and it's not what we're talking about tonight, but I thought it'd be pretty interesting to watch. Have you seen that Ariana Grande video, Matt, of her saying she went somewhere and had her brain wiped?
Oh God! Yeah.
Oh wow!
Have you seen it, Chris?
Yeah, you showed it, man.
Yeah. Right. So I'll play this just as something else, just to.
Watch your eyes, Matt. Watch your eyes. Very.
Well, there's a lot more disclosure, it seems, and a lot more like showing you that we're satanic. It seems to be like a common theme. It's not just like. I think it's not just disclosure. It's like to me, so I'm telling people like, hey, you want to be on board with Satan? Come on over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I always say, Matty, we're almost like when the internet came out, it was like a rat race. They knew that we'd get the information to each other quickly, but they also knew it was they needed it to control the operation, if you like.
Yeah, they actually needed it, but it was a double-edged sword, weren't it?
Yeah, like a race almost.
Ignore this guy talking because he's it's that new TikTok style of. I suppose to get a message out to younger people, which it's fair enough, I suppose, but it's not something I like doing. Yeah. It's not my thing, but at least he's doing. I don't think he is actually into what we're into. He's more of a Hollywood commentator, I think. So, but anyway. So this is like a normie realizing that Ariana Grande has been somewhere and had a memory wiped.
He's got lips like you, Dom.
What? Goat lips?
Laser treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the Brighter Days Clinic they do the memory erasure,
So did Ariana Grande just admit that she's going to a clinic, some Hollywood celebrity clinic, that erases her memories? I mean, that seems like concerning.
The memory erasure, they erase my memories. It's a little foggy, but...
If you could remember, struggle, tell me, give me a date. Give me a date.
You know what? I'll have to go back to the clinic and see if they can restore my memory.
Is it going to be soon?
So I decided to do a quick deep dive into this clinic that she...
turn him off.
I mean, that is fucking weird, isn't it?
I mean, she looks strange anyway. Now, whether she were acting there or not, she didn't. She
didn't look like she was acting for it, and I actually feel sorry for her there because she you know what? She's get rid of this guy's face.
Yeah, I'll have nightmares.
But what I got from that is it's like she's trying to. The guy who's interviewing it, it's like she's trying to please him as well. From the. What is it?
Was she a Disney girl?
Yeah, she was a Disney child, Disney kid, wasn't she?
A lot of bad stuff happens to these guys, doesn't it?
I mean, what did you make of that, Matt?
I'm still wrapping my head around whether or not everyone's been cloned, and they got memory implants.
Yeah.
So I think that, like I said, they're trying to reverse engineer and get us to this dystopian idiocracy, but they do have the technology that they're trying to reverse engineer us into. So they've got clones, they've got transfer of consciousness, and they're trying to warm us up to Neuralink. I think they're going to say, oh, Neuralink, you got to get this drill in your head and this USB this. And then eventually they'll be like, oh, no, actually, we just have this really high-tech yarmulke. And you're welcome. And it'll be in the brainwaves. Have you seen Demolition Man?
Yeah.
That one? Like Sylvester Stallone is like, oh, I'm gonna get some, with Sandra Bullock, and they're gonna sit down to have, and they just put the electrode thing on their head, right? And
Sandra Bullock, actually. Sandra Bullock. Yeah.
Oh,
which
Sandra Bullock's. Yeah.
Right. So I think possibly like celebrities have been cloned and then they get memory implants and all this sort of stuff. I mean, like I'm still on the fence of like, what are we seeing with who I used to think he was really cool. Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Bruce
and all
Willis.
this stuff. This guy's like Captain Masculinity. He's our hero, right? And now he's just a vegetable. Like, come on, don't tell me that he
very quickly as well, wasn't he? Very quickly.
Very fast.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. So like, what is that?
And look how De Niro's turned as well. He's changed. I mean, I'm not saying he weren't. And the problem with social media for these people is it actually shows them who they really are, which isn't a good thing for these actors because they had this sort of mystique about them that you didn't really know what they were. Now, De Niro's wearing his heart on his sleeve. And apparently, I've seen pictures of his son. He's got pink hair now with like a dreadlock pink
pair of high heels on, didn't it?
Yeah, and high heels.
Yeah, he's definitely compromised. I can tell with all his stance in politics recently. The Ariana Grande, like, is she a clone with memory implants? Like, is there other clones walking amongst us? I think that seems plausible. And then like the clones idea is very fascinating because like you go back to the World Fairs and Cabbage Patch Kids. I think those Cabbage Patch Kids were clones, and I think that the human gene supply, like the DNA, the bloodlines, they needed to muddy all the bloodlines to keep us from really coming into
hence
our
the mass
powers
migrations and the mix of every because that was quite it wasn't like even like the slave trade. That was a mix of, if you think about it, that was a mix of bloodlines because the people were so they took people out of where they lived and plonked them in a strange country and shit happened. And also the Planned Parenthood, where they were taking fetus or babies as they were and basically cutting them up while they're alive to sell the body parts.
Yeah, I just saw a meme today that has a juxtaposition of a Mayan temple that's stacked up like
exactly the same, as
as a Planned Parenthood,
and Planned Parenthood building the same, but it just has Planned Parenthood on top, and it says same script, different times. They're still sacrificing babies just in a different way, and we consent to it and think nothing of it, but it's very deep, and we're definitely indoctrinated to it.
Wasn't there talk about Elon Musk buying Planned Parenthood? I'm sure I saw somewhere.
Buying everything. They're gonna buy Canada as well while they're at it.
And Greenland.
But intuitively, like my gut, and we have this like spiritual immune system and the spiritual guidance system, and it has to do with our higher self and our spirit guides and all this sort of things. When I see Ariana Grande and I look at her eyes, I feel like she's a soulless being. It doesn't resonate with me that she's like got a soul, that she's like an actual human. Maybe she is a clone.
I felt sympathetic towards her, to be fair, Matt. Whether there's anything there or not, I felt a bit sorry for her in that clip. I don't know why.
Yeah, because her memory's getting erased, and maybe she was scooped up as a child and turned into a Disney kid.
It was the fact, wherever she is, but she was saying it like that other person should understand, and it's just a matter of fact
know what's up.
that this happens. This. When you get your memory wiped, it's not because no one fucking knows what you're talking about. Nobody's had the memory wipes except you. But she was saying it to try and please him and say, just I have to go back to the clinic and have it. What are you on about? What? That's not in our world. That's in your world.
Yeah, I think it is in their world, and they do things like the Eyes Wide Shut, where they come together and they do these ceremonial things. And if you go back and watch Eyes Wide Shut with this new lens, first off, the soundtrack is going to give you nightmares. It's very
hypnotizing.
It's got like entities attached to it or something. It's very weird.
I watched it recently.
Yeah, it's something else. And if it is the fact that it didn't even get completed and that the director had to get offed because he was showing too much. It's pretty clear that Hollywood does come together and do these evil, dark ceremonies. I mean, even pop music, like anybody who gets big in music is told, like, they'll either sign up or they'll come out of it and say, I was offered like everything just to become an evil Satanist and to like have demons attached to my pop music or whatever, you know. It's like that's a weird world we're living in if that's all the hits on the radio are possessed. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's strange. But, you know, I think that there are genuine people out there like Whitney Houston and what have you that try to not necessarily play the game. Have y'all done a show on Kobe Bryant?
No.
I remember it unfolding at the time.
Yeah.
I think definitely like there's a lot there. Like he got away with RAPing a girl in Colorado. And I think that at that time, the elite were like, you owe us one. And he didn't really realize that meant that he would get all the riches in the world, but eventually he'd be sacrificed when the timeline was being hijacked during the lockdowns. But his death was like at a very precipice timing. It was very critical, the timing. And like on parallel timelines, he's likely winning championships in a very popular name still. And that helicopter crash was obviously fake.
It was in Corona, wasn't it? It was in Corona. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, wild.
Just a coincidence.
We're definitely experiencing some sort of like hijacking of our own timeline where we grew up on is being severed and twisted into this like CERN kind of like dystopia where they're creating these different events that don't exist on other timelines. It's a kind of spiritual take on it, but I believe that there's parallel timelines where the lockdowns and 9/11 and even chemtrails don't exist, right? And they're trying to steer this one towards some weird, I know I said the word transhumanism a lot on the show, but it's like a dystopia where we are deterred from our spiritual progression and more adopting a materialistic evolution where we evolve more into a material form, which is like robotics and transfer of consciousness and whatnot. And all that is going to be able to get ramped up when fertility plummets, which is all by design.
It's already happening, I think. We're well into plummeting fertility, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's all by design. What Eyes Wide Shut, Clockwork Orange, Space Odyssey, Moon Landing, sure was a busy boy. Yeah, no kidding.
I think he knew something.
I was reading the comments.
Yeah. I saw it there.
Yeah, we did a show a couple of weeks ago with Guy Anderson, who literally talks about the Cabbage Patch babies, Matt.
Oh, cool.
And the cloning. He's written a book called, what's the book called, though? Tesla and the Cabbage Patch babies. Yeah.
Oh, so you're talking about like sigil magic on the cell towers and whatnot, and if they're emitting frequencies and then the frequency is being utilized to be, weaponized and whatnot, it seems to reign very true. A lot over here, people are sending me photos of water towers and they just have 5G panels stacked on the water. And as we learn, water holds memory. And if they have like a predatory frequency or just killing the water. Like
and it's a conductor, isn't it? It naturally conducts things.
It naturally conducts it, yeah.
I won't pretend that. I won't pretend that I know much. I know a lot about sigils, but I can still see that one there. The one I was talking about. It definitely looked like a sigil I'd seen somewhere in a book or in the past as I was drawing it.
Where's Al Gore now and his weather bombs and his boiling seas, oceans? Is he still going off on one?
Floating around like
I haven't heard from him for a long time.
Haven't seen him recently, but he does. He cranks out propaganda, just like the thing you just saw with those cranking out propaganda, which I thought was hilarious. That they're like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, get 5 million.
And then the UK government has donated 10 million pounds. It's like okay, the DiCaprio and the UK government are donating like similar amounts to like save. What absolute sense does that make?
The planet,
it was really real. Yeah, it's like, come on, you need the celebrities chipping in.
Well, he's chasing after 16-year-old girls on his fucking £10 million yacht.
Right. But Al Gore is definitely pushing the propaganda, and he's raking it all in. Anybody who wants to do anything green, he's got like consulting firms that rake in the dough by telling people to fearmonger them about sea level rise. I might have mentioned this last time, but I want to say it again. The documentary Sand Wars. If you're on the fence or you think that global warming might be real, like that's the big lie. is anthropogenic, man-made, carbon-based global warming is a problem, which 0.04% of the atmosphere is carbon. Carbon rates could go up tenfold and it'd actually be good for the world. If carbon got cut in half, we'd perish. Like
Yes.
the world would die. And so like carbon is not the problem. And this whole lie that there's a problem with carbon and then sea level rise and all these things and you know, hurricanes and fires and all this catastrophe, it's all contingent on believing that, you know, carbon is doing something.
Carbon and the sun are two pretty much the two bastions of life.
Right.
They're the problem.
And that all these problems are creating heating and that we're going to all be underwater. Like that's the big lie, is that the coastlines, which everyone lives on the coast everywhere, the coastlines are going to be underwater. We're all going to die. So something needs to happen or we're going to all die from sea level rise. Well, this PBS, like U.S. government, it's like the BBC. They did this documentary. I did talk about it last time. I'm going to do it again. Sand Wars. It's such a poignant documentary. There's a sand mafia that goes in barges and steals sand because it's a commodity. And I talked about it last time because I remember Christian said, well, what makes the sand good in the water, like the ocean sand versus the sand in the desert? And the sand in the desert is too refined and the ocean sand is gritty and you can make concrete out of it. So this is a commodity needed to make concrete for buildings or expansion of coastlines like in Singapore, Malaysia, and Dubai and whatnot. So barges of mafia will show up in the middle of the night and steal sand from islands. Then they have rapid erosion. Then the mainstream media will blame that on sea level rise. But sea levels are not rising. They haven't risen a millimeter. They won't rise. Okay, and even you know, bigger conspiracies is like maybe we're lied to about the world that we're in. Like sea levels rising, even if they did, they wouldn't equate to like flooding us out because it just doesn't work that way.
And in reality, even if obviously if it got hotter, fantastic. If the sea levels rose, we'd adjust. And if it was real, I'm not saying it is, by the way. If it did, we'd adjust and you know recalibrate how we live. And
well, surely if it was real, you'd find ways to cope, not totally destroy your life. Yeah,
like the COVID nonsense, global, you know, all this stuff. You adapt to the situation. You don't have to do anything.
I keep saying, Matt, out of our windows here, all I see is green fields. Now they're empty. 30, 40 years ago, when me and Chris were growing up around this area, everything was full of livestock. They were growing
cows, sheep.
Yeah, they were growing crops in these fields, etc. Now they're empty. There's a few sheep knocking around, but not many. And that's what's happening. They're stopping people utilising what's there, what's free, to commoditize it all. But
true sustainability for their upside down inverted sustainability, which is eating crickets that we grow in a factory. It's you know, because we've blocked your sun. Get solar panels, but we're going to block your sun. You're welcome. It's like, no, this makes no sense at all. I mean, it's actually ass backwards if you look at any of it. But people are put in a place of fear, and then in fear, they would rather take authority as truth than actually think about things and take truth as their authority. Because when you're in a space of fear, you just want daddy government to save you, really.
You do have to give him a bit of credit, Matt, at least if you have a sense of humour. I mean, we were on about JFK earlier, him on that plane eating McDonald's with
RFK, you mean?
RFK, so I always get confused. RFK eating McDonald's with Trump. I mean, that was a piss take, wasn't it? That someone was fucking taking the piss out of us. So you've brought in this guy, the health guy, who's going to solve everything, in his area with a big fucking Big Mac.
And he can't. His voice is so raspy. It sounds like he ate a baby before the press conference. It's like he sounds like he's got a demon inside of him, and people are like, "Oh, he's the one for health. He says he's healthy." It's like, and people say things like, "Well, he's 70 years old, Matt. How old is he?" They quote his age, and then they're like, "Look how healthy he looks." And I just type adrenochrome.
One thing I pointed out, Matt, a few months ago, been around guys that have been because I trained a lot of my mates were all on steroids, and those guys, all them guys there, I would say that are in this the three guys that you were talking about, Trump, Musk and RFK, and a lot of the other ones are hyper aggressive. And I would say, I know RFK is because he spoke about going on testosterone replacement and God knows what else, growth hormone and all the other stuff. But all of them are hyper aggressive, aren't they? And if you look at Trump, how old is he? I mean, he's the most aggressive 80-year-old or whatever he is, man I've ever seen in my life.
No, you're right, Dom. You said that, and I weren't sure. And then I watched one of their little, from the White House thing, and I thought these guys are off.
It's like watching a bunch of 25-year-olds an after party.
Yeah, you're right. They're off the tits, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know what they're jacked up on there, but yeah, sorry, mate.
Yeah, they're jacked on adrenochrome. The comments over here on the side, someone said Holland, half the country is below sea level. If you go to Holland, there's all these boats
it always has
everywhere
been.
in
Yeah,
the
it always has been.
canals. It always has been. If sea level rose at all, Holland would be the first place to notice, and it hasn't. It hasn't one bit. But still, the mainstream media will literally gaslight you and say, no, don't ignore that. It's like, no, look at this island. One island over here. This one island is having these big problems. Did y'all see, you mentioned the White House, and I got to mention, I'm sure you probably did a show making fun of it. Did you see the interview with Zelensky where they...
Yeah.
It's like embarrassingly, scripted, just like the ear thing.
WWF on steroids. Yeah.
It's like anybody in their right mind would know that such an important conversation wouldn't have a camera crew.
No, but not only that, right? On live TV, we know, everybody knows there's a delay. There's a fucking delay. They could just turn it off. You know what I mean?
It made Trump look so macho.
Yeah,
and people were like, "Yeah, he's so cool." And what it did was, because immediately we passed the buck to you all. Sorry to say, and then all of a sudden the UK is like funding and like all of the, like we used to have, like Congress would come together and send 10 billion to Ukraine. Like every few weeks we'd be sending 10 billion to Ukraine, and it was this big money funneling thing. But now that little White House staged like
shenanigans,
headbutting, you know what I mean? Now all of a sudden the buck's been passed to Britain,
to Europe,
and now Europe is getting involved, and now you're on the verge of World War III. How easy that was to just pass it over, and then what's going to happen is once conflict erupts, the U.S. will be back. We'll be back there again anyway. It'll just be twisted a different way to get public perception on their side, because like we had no business over there. But if they start actually fighting with European nations or something, we'll have to come, back over there. It's just going to be this elongated nonsense, all by design, I feel.
It were like three cokeheads having an argument, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Off the tits.
You're probably right. Yeah. I mean, Zelensky's well known for being taking, twat. Yeah. Okay, shall we wrap up there? Next time, Matt, before you come over here, we'll do that presentation at some point in early June or something like that. That'd be good, wouldn't it, Christy? Right?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I saw in the comments quite a lot of people said they're coming down to London to see.
I think you might be pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
I do. I can feel the word is traveling around UK and worldwide, and I do think there'll be an amazing turnout, and I can't wait to keep doing it annually. And create some change in this, because we need it. I think there's all sorts of protests all the time for like BLM and whatever, and all those they're all bollocks. Like this is actually a real protest for a real thing that we're all.
It's not a protest, Matt. It's a meetup.
No, it's a meetup. It's a gathering of like minds to show each other that we have each other's backs, that we're not crazy, and to exchange resources and information. With that said, I have the website again, stopgeoengineeringlondon.co.uk. Got the UK, website for that, and that'll be alive forever to give updates and whatnot, and for the next year and for resources and what have you. And then I have another UK website, Spero, SPERO.
Yeah.
My EMF clothing line. I have blue light blocking glasses and whatnot, and I've got spirogear.co.uk for the London-based.
So are you stocking stuff over here now then, Matt?
Yeah, limited stuff, but it's growing and it's wonderful. And actually, blue light blocking glasses have been really popular over in the UK and whatnot. So that's a beautiful thing and growing. And then on my website at home, I actually started selling incandescent light bulbs, which have been
I might have to try a pair of them blue blockers of yours.
Yeah, I'd love to send you pairs. Send me your address. I've got yellow ones that are 85% blocking, that are actually nice and gentle on the eyes. You can wear them all day. And then the orange ones are great too. They're 100% blocking. Just give me your address. I'll send a couple pair for you all. But yeah, I really look forward to meeting people in person. No pressure, Christian.
Oh no, I'm going to be there, Matt.
I might get there yet, Matt. I might be okay to come down, get there. So I'll let you know.
I've got it in my calendar. Unless something weird happens, I'm coming down.
Oh, beautiful. And if anybody is an artist, a musician, a speaker, or wants to help get involved in any sort of way, or band or whatever, who knows how it's all going to unravel and who will, like, how many people we can have and whatnot. But reach out to me, frankenskies@gmail.com. I'd love to have all the people that want to come together to help to be involved. So
well, my
people out there.
My son's a musician, and
Cool.
he's keen to do some live stuff. So, and he said he's going to come. Whether he does or not is another story. But
I know where my money is.
But he's a bit flaky. But he said he's coming anyway, and because it's a Hyde Park thing, it's outside. It'd be nice. Be a nice little excuse to go to London. I used to live in London, Matt, but I prefer going as a tourist these days. But yeah,
cool.
I'm
starting to really like it. I'm starting to really like London. Oh, and I want to say one thing. Earlier, you said people feel like they're alone and they have to find their people. And sometimes you don't realize that there's people in your town that are actually awake that you could, have a coffee or go to the pub with, and you just don't know. So recently, I went on a show. It doesn't matter. It's in the UK, like Doc Malik or Delingpool or something. And I was mentioning that I was just in Bexhill. And I interviewed this awesome author. Someone messaged me from Bexhill, and they're like, "Mate, I'm all alone down here. It's horrible. Please, can you connect me to your people?" And I sent one email, and now he's got friends in Bexhill, and I did that from America. Isn't that beautiful? We are not alone. Yeah. Like, there's people in our community, there's people in our town, there's people in our neighborhoods, but it's like we can't go waving our flag around of like,
no.
You know what I mean?
Not the rainbow flag.
We don't even really have a flag.
You do feel like it is a resistance, don't you? It's like literally Star Wars level resistance.
During the lockdowns, I love showing my face because other people that was my flag, and then people come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're not scared to shit too?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not an idiot. Are you an idiot? No, I'm not an idiot. Yeah, we're not idiots together."
One of the funny things I saw, because I was going out when the lockdowns first started, and it was a tramp going. And there's only me on the street. I was with my nipper on the bike, and he was just walking down the street going, "This is ridiculous. Are you all mental? Do you not realise what's going on?" I'm thinking, the only fucking guy talking some sense is this homeless guy walking down the street.
Exactly.
And then when it reopened,
to piss?
when it reopened, everyone went to I used to go to this park every day, and everyone was in the park sunbathing. And he walked through the park going, "You fucking idiots! Do you not realise?" So now you've decided it's all right,
Yeah, right.
And I think he's the only guy who's ever talked any sense in the last God knows how long.
Fantastic. We need to get him on. You can open a bottle of wine for him, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, Mad Dog 2020.
A bottle of witch piss. Yeah,
it'd be even lower grade than what the shit I drink.
All right, then we'll call it a day.
Nice to meet you again, Matt. Nice to see you again, Matt. Should I say?
I'm just going to play a theme tune, Matt. Stay here before I end the stream, and we'll say bye. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be the full podcast, as I said, this week. There's going to be no members. I will release the audio as it is as well, and this will obviously stay on YouTube, but it'll go on Podomatic and our sheepfarm.co.uk. Matt's contact details will be in the description for his Spiro gear and when the talk is on, but we'll have him back June 21st before he comes over, and we'll do a little bit of a presentation on here, which should be interesting as well. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.